Yes, my feeling. Something like such. Breath. Of mercy. Candidly. Thing. Refuge me.
Hey everyone, how are you doing on this fine Friday evening? I hope decently. It's been a long fucking week. It's been a very long week. The realities of the economy are settling in with kind of everyone I know, from family to friends to business associates to former business associates. And if you didn't know, the economy isn't in a bad place. The economy is fully broken. There's nothing happening. It's actually kind of an extraordinary time where companies who have saved up money are holding on to it, and they're not really expanding or hiring because they don't know what's happening. Companies who don't have money are letting go people and trying to see how long this will take before the world rights itself, which at this point, I don't believe is going to happen soon enough. But Sprite has a new flavor with tea in it. So, take what you can get. You take what you can get, right? I figured I'd go live. I had a Sunday stream in the back of my shit. I've been coding and writing and trying to figure out kind of how I'm doing my next how-to philosophy video, because I need to write it tomorrow and then get it produced and out. So it's a shorter one. This is going to be an easier one, I think. So this will be fun. Not quite the hour long of the last thing. We are not watching at this point, Georgiani. Shaky, pick one video, at me with it in the server. We'll add that to the pile. I have a bunch of videos that are, some I've been holding on to, some I've been, like, they're not philosophy. Like, I think I've done enough of that this week. We did our big thing with Michael, which again, kudos to Michael O'Burns, which is not how you pronounce it, but kudos to him for having me on there and sort of taking a little bit of a chat. I know I can be intense, but it's been a week of postmodernism, and it's a mode I had to get in to explain postmodernism because, of course, well, Jameson's work comes out of Deleuze and Guattari. It is in a slightly different direction, we'll just say, than Deleuze and Guattari take it. And I tend to move in that space where I don't even necessarily believe in the concept of modernism, and I'm not sure postmodernism is the age we're in. Instead, that it's just revealing about more of how things have always been, but that we've had layers on top of that and other things. So it's so as my brain adjusts to that, I figured I'd take a break from the harder shit, right? Figured I'd take a break from the harder shit. Does that make sense? I'm going to scoot this a little bit over. Oh, I did bring out, because the James Bond got announced. So I have my Hitman guy. I don't have a lot of toy things, but it's signed by the original dev team. I really, really love Hitman. So the creators of that are like, I'm a big fan. I'm a sucker for them. What can I say? This is going to be its own thing, as it always is. But let's see what we've got. Let's pop over to the YouTube. That is going to be... So here is one of the videos. And I still haven't been added in the server, Shaky. Letting you know. All right, so this will be the size we do. I'll probably shrink in a little bit. There, that'll be nice. Oop. Yeah, that should be okay. Should be okay. Then we'll do the second bit, which is the title, which is going to be the same window. All right, there. All right. We're going, no one's joining yet, so it's kind of a nice, relaxing time as far as I'm concerned. So we'll have a little bit of a relaxing start. So here's a series of videos. Shaking, not shaking, shaky, Shakespeare. Shakespeare gets to, because Shaky joined the mod team at the QC. The QC is a weird place. A lot of people think I run it, and that's true in the sense that I'm a brutal dictator despot. However, the entire thing is actually run by like a weird committee of like votes and choices. So So we walk back and forth because we tried it. We tried the full commune thing. We gave it a full try where we had meetings and votes, and it turned out most people don't have the time to do a lot of stuff. So it ended up a lot of people would be voting on stuff, and then not a decision would be made, and then I'd have to implement it. And because I was implementing everything, I had to go, it became this weird nightmare. So instead, I basically have veto and control, sure. But the votes and everything and nominations. So we Shaky made their way into the mod team this week. So welcome, by the way, Shaky. But you got to pick a video. I'm not gonna just do random shit. But we are gonna do a couple random things. So here's the first set. So we have this one from Novaro Media, who I like as people, and I generally like their activism in the past. And it is a AI apocalypse video, or a warning about it. I have been warned on this video significantly. I've been significantly warned. You can choose you pick any fucking video. I said any video. It's got to be hilariously bad philosophy though. Like if you give me I'm not doing philosophy tube. But you can pick any of the videos. I just need one for you to pick. So Michael goes through this. I haven't watched it. I haven't watched any of these. I've watched the first 10 seconds just to make sure it's something that's at least something. So that's the first. Then there's going to be this, which is there will never be another movie like Office Space. Someone asked me to watch this. They said they think I would have interesting commentary. I don't know. This has been a couple of these have just been sitting around. Masculinity is fake, which is interesting because I believe everything's fake. So that'll be fascinating. Vitalism and the liberal death cult from the Ark, which, given how much I love vitalism, that'll be fun. And of course, the last one is why freedom is ruining your life. Yes, Tree. That is the video. This is not the order we're going in at all. This is not the order we're going in. In fact, which goes first? We're just going to do them in order because it's kind of that. I'm feeling that. We're going to do first one's going to be, they're in no particular order at all. At all. So let's see. First, we'll do freedom. Vitalism is bad. Masculinity, Office Space, which I actually think that one will be that'll feel good. And we'll save the AI one for the next one. So we'll do these 4. I guess you can only do 4 options in a poll. That seems fucking stupid. There we go. Polls up. You guys vote. Choose one. Then we'll add Shaky, whatever Shaky pings me with, which still hasn't happened. Just mentioning. Sats Hegel. Hey, Brooks. No idea if you recall me, but I want to say hi. I've also saw you in Sunday's chat. Hello. Hope you're well. It's a good name. Ersatz is a word that you don't see nearly enough, just as a thing. Do plastic pills? I did the anti-Oedipus video, and it's brain dead. All right, Shaky. That'll be our video for Shakies, which I'll put in at some point when I'm in the mood, which is this. Jason Giorgiani, The War Over Reality. It's 3 hours. Fuck. We're gonna get. So here's the deal. If any of these videos are longer than 20 minutes, you're gonna get me skipping around, and you can fucking deal with that. I don't give a shit. You can deal with that. I'm not doing that. I'm not doing this shit where I can't. It would take me 6 hours. The AI video we watched the other day from Alex something or other. Who cares? Some shitty fucking guy who just made stuff up. You don't have to choose a shorter one. Just know I'm going to skip around. So if there's shit you want me to actually see, probably get ready with a time code. Masculinity is winning far and away. That's not even a slight question. So I'm going to go and end that poll, and we are going to go straight to good bookshelves. That looks like Ekreitz right there. I don't know why my eyes go right to it. Is that? This is what excretes look like. All right, let's see. Masculinity is fake. In this video, I would prove to you with a simple and accessible introduction to Zizek, that's probably accretes then, and Lacan's conceptual framework of sexuality and Zizekian critique of masculinity. Ooh. I might like this one. I mean, I'm going to critique it. Don't get me wrong. But I might like this one. This will be fun. Let's do it. As we go, super chats, memberships, membership gifting, always good. We're starting to actually grow as a channel because of my last video did really well, and I'm starting to see growth. So we're going to start doing a handful of things. The biggest is going to be changes on Patreon. We're still not going to have anything paywall. There's going to be no members-only content. It's not how it's going to work. But members are going to have access to members-only polls. And on Patreon members are going to have access to members-only Patreon polls as well. They're going to be for different things. And the Patreon is also going to end up having a thing I put together a while ago, but I didn't get to actually put in, which is Brooks's books. I actually have cataloged all of the books behind me. And basically, give a couple extra bucks. You get to buy me explaining a book to you. 99%, like, almost all the books I've read. There are a few I haven't, and that will be fun. So that'll be pretty great. So please do the Brooks shelves. Yes. Oh, God. That's such a fucking good name for that. Secret Asian Dan, may I? I'll credit it. I'll call it SAD came up with a Secret Asian Dan. SAD. Brooks Shelves. Oh, fuck. That's such a better name. Fuck. I'm stealing it. I will give credit. But let's, as we go, don't forget to remember all that shit. Please give money because it's needed. That would be great. Thank you so much. One moment. That did not play the audio. One moment. Why is that not picking up the audio? I have audio capture in there. Did you guys hear anything? Yeah, it's muted. What the fuck?
Hello everybody, it's me Julian, and today I would like to argue that masculinity is fake, or perhaps...
Okay, and then now it's disappeared. I love everything that happens on Windows. It's my favorite thing. Where'd it go? What the fuck is going on with OBS? Okay, here we go. This is Julian de Medeiros. Now, up front, I'm going to make a guess because after what he's just said there too. But I'm going to make a guess. And I have a very fast critique. And I'm actually going to be doing a video on this soon because I think it's an important distinction. In Anti-Oedipus, Deleuze and Guattari talk about the solar anus, and everyone laughs about it because it's like this meme fucking moment. And it's actually like one of the most important points in the book, and everyone laughs about it. Most people have no idea about what they're talking about. But for them, there's this famous case of Freud's. Judge Schreber is the guy's name. His father was horrifyingly abusive and really, really abusive. And so Judge Schreber will just say had a lot of mental issues. But one of the things that happened is he had sunbeams coming out of his ass, like God coming out of his ass. He was made woman by God to give birth to God's child. He had his stomach removed and replaced with the stomach of a Jew. I didn't write this. This is what Schreber said. And they have this line, and it's in the very beginning of the book, but it's like Schreber had sunbeams coming out of his ass, and be certain they worked. They produced something. When we talk about something being fake, generally in parlance, we're talking about something that doesn't exist. But there's a challenge with this. Masculinity is, and I can probably just say it, masculinity is not a hard-coded thing in our genetics, our nature, any of these things. But fake is a very particular word. This is the idea of ideology. This is a Zizekian critique of things, that there isn't really capitalism, that there isn't really money, that there isn't really sunbeams coming out of Schreber's ass. And that's kind of true in the sense that, like, if you were to look at Schreber's ass, you would be like, I don't see any sunbeams. And he'd be like, sunbeams? What the fuck? They did this and that. But what's the difference? Fake is complicated because it means that not real means imagined, means not material, but it's material. It produces effects. Masculinity produces effects. American voting, YouTube, Call of Duty, John Wick, masculinity is very real. So the critique is very complicated to do this. This is going to be the Zizekian critique. This is going to be the critique of ideology and all of that. I have a feeling. But to call it fake is a hell of a thing to say. So we'll see where he goes with it. Thank God this is 12 minutes. I already love this person for being able to be concise.
Perhaps more specifically, I would like to provide you with a simple and accessible introduction.
Samuar, thank you very much for joining for 8 months. Lovely, lovely, lovely. And also, if you aren't a member, members have the ability to spread their solar goatsy. To
what you might call the Zizekian Lacanian conceptual framework of masculinity. And before I begin, I want to say that I'm well aware of the fact that the contemporary discourse on masculinity has become highly fraught, indeed very polemical. And so I know that by means of making this video and this argument, it will appear that I am adding fodder to the culture wars. And yet, that's not...
I know, it is fully up here and it's fully up in OBS. He's a lovely voice. Like, I have a pretty good voice, but he's got a lovely, like, lilting, very simple talking, hey, guys, I just want to talk about this. Look, there's stuff going on. There's stuff going on. Kavina Still, thank you for joining. And in some of you are, thank you for the gifted memberships. Love you. You're very cool. Thank you guys so much. It's great. I think I can boost it. He's quiet on my end, so it's not just you. So I'll boost it a little bit as we go, and you can tell me if I'm fucking it up.
It's not really my intent. Instead, my argument is that men themselves are victims of masculinity, that men too suffer from the patriarchy, and that perhaps the most important thing, therefore, is for us to educate ourselves about what masculinity is. And the Zizekian Lacanian framework...
So is that sounding better? He's literally hitting slightly below my levels. Like, I'm hitting at -5. He's hitting at -10 to -5. Good. Okay. For me, it's still quiet. So, like, I'm hearing my kids upstairs over him, and it's a lot. So I might rewind it a second.
Men too suffer from the patriarchy, and that perhaps the most important thing, therefore, is for us to educate ourselves about what masculinity is. And the Zizekian Lacanian framework, whilst perhaps not perfect and certainly not satisfying to everyone, is one such approach, and an approach that I find to be satisfying. In fact, I'd like to follow that up by saying that my theory of masculinity is precisely not that it is performative. A strict interpretation or a close reading of Zizek and Lacan's positions should reveal that they're not in the camp of Judith Butler.
100%.
In fact, while Zizek is a close friend of Butler's,
he has made some very crude jokes about that friendship, if you didn't know. And apparently she thinks they're kind of funny sometimes, but I have a feeling she's like, ah.
His Lacanian theory of sexuation, il n'y a pas de rapport sexuel, is a much more essentialist reading of gender than Judith Butler's one. But anyway, enough of a preface. Let's simply begin with some definitions. What do I mean by masculinity? And what do I mean by fake? And why is masculinity fake? Well, what I mean by...
I am just already happy, dude. I gotta tell you, regardless of how I feel about what this guy says, this is good philosophy. Do you understand that? Like, he's up front saying, here is my terms, I'm going to define them, and then show how they go together. And it's like, be still my heart. I don't, oh, God, I don't even know what to say. It's like, wait, you're not just going to throw fucking magazine cuttings on a wall and yell that someone is evil? Jeez. Oh, you don't belong on YouTube. You're too good for this place. You gentle, gentle child.
Fake is a phantasmatic support frame
Yep.
that covers up a traumatic encounter with the real. And I'll explain that in a moment. And what I mean by masculinity
It's going to be a hell of a thing to explain in 10 minutes.
is that masculinity is this phantasmatic frame that covers up the traumatic encounter with woman. And that's what I'm going to try to explain here. So let's begin with a simple joke, an anecdote that Zizek likes to use that's quite illustrative. He says he was told by a childhood friend that as a child, he tried to reconcile his knowledge of his parents' sexuality with the myth of the stork that brings babies. And so
Leon Tarantino. Love it. Welcome to the efficiency machines.
as a child, he imagined that a stork would arrive at his parents' window, would observe them copulating, and if the stork approved, the stork would bring back a baby. It's a wonderfully illustrative anecdote because it goes to show how the fantasy
He just told one of Zizek's cruder jokes in like the nicest family-friendly academic way I've ever heard. That's fantastic. I need to find the actual, let me see if I can find the actual joke, because I'm just going to let you know that wasn't it. I have Zizek's jokes hiding somewhere behind me, but nope. Man, am I going to have to like actually pull that out? That would piss me off. Zizek jokes. The subtitle of this book is infuriating. Did you hear the one about Hegel and the negation? That's not a fucking thing Zizek ever said. It's so fucking awful and corny. It's so fucking corny. Oh, is it not in there? Oh no. Oh, no, that one is. Cool. Yep, and then... No, it's not in there. Fuck, I'm going to have to go find it. I'll find it another time. I'll find it another time.
phantasmatic frame.
No, that is the punchline. Zizek's jokes are... jokes. A lot of the time. Because he'd... what is the difference between a pope and a trumpet? The pope is from Rome. The trumpet is made from tin. What's the difference between the pope from Rome and a trumpet made from tin? The trumpet made from tin can be from Rome, while the pope from Rome cannot be made from tin. And then he, in a similar way, we should redouble the Parisian graffiti joke. What is the difference between God is dead and Nietzsche is dead? That's literally, I'm just reading the book when I say that. That's the whole thing. It's the whole punchline. It's the whole thing. A fool's having intercourse for the first time. A girl tells him this. I'm reading this from his book. A girl decides to tell him exactly what to do. See this hole? You put it in there. Push it deep. Pull it out. Put it in. Pull it out. Put it in. Pull it out. Wait a minute, the fool says. Make up your mind. In or out. That doesn't even have an explanation of like why he told this joke or where it's from. That's not even a good joke. I fucking hate some of these things so much. Is there a pun in from 10? No. It has to do with, like, one sec. Crucial for the proper comic effect is not a difference where we expect sameness, but rather a sameness where we expect difference. This is why, as Zupanzik pointed out, the materialist and therefore properly comic version of the above joke would have been something like, God is dead, and as a matter of fact, I don't feel too well either. Let's see if we can make sense of this joke.
with the... He tried to reconcile, Zizek likes to use, that's quite illustrative. He says he was told by a childhood friend that as a child, he tried to reconcile his knowledge of his parents' sexuality with the myth of the stork that brings babies.
It's just not even funny, though.
So as a child, he imagined that a stork would arrive at his parents' window, would observe them copulating, and if the stork approved, the stork would bring back a baby. It's a wonderfully illustrative anecdote because it goes to show how the phantasmatic frame never simply disavows sexuality or the traumatic knowledge of sexuality, but instead tries to incorporate it into a myth of sorts. In fact, you could make the...
So that's another way that he's talking about. Again, I appreciate that he's doing this. Again, this is why actual philosophy content does not do well on YouTube, because it's dry. The joke, as he's telling it, and it does make sense in this context, is about masculinity specifically for Lacan and definitely Zizek through Lacan, is that masculinity forms because of how we tarry with the reality that there is no masculinity. There is a castration. I have to deal with the fact that I am not really a man, or that I should be, or that, like, there's a disavowal naturally in the idea of how I am a dude. I'm a dude. I am a dude. But it's almost like a thou doth protest too much thing, where underneath it, there isn't this other underside of things, the crude infantile masculinity that exists with it, as well as the stalwart stoic. And these things come together because of the sort of way that we function inside of how we deal with the real. Zizek's version of masculinity, I actually find it's a little easier to grasp because it has to do with that disavowal. So he's talking about the kid doesn't want to deal with the fact that his dad's fucking his mom, and that in that act they're exchanging fluids and sperm and egg. Like, that stuff doesn't happen. So instead, he's heard about the stork, and that's a thing that he's been told. And one day he sees his parents having sex, and he realizes, oh, this is what they're doing. This is sex. So the stork will show up. If the stork approves of it, I'm going to get a big baby brother, because he doesn't want to avow. He doesn't want to deal with the reality of the situation. That's the setup, right? That's the setup, right? So the challenge is, again, Lacan is incredibly, like, for fuck's sake, he actually created knots to describe things easier in his philosophy. So, like, imagine how complex his philosophy is, where he's like, a great way to talk about it is Baromean knots. And you're like, dude, take it a notch down, man. So when we're talking about things at that point, for Lacan, it's a slightly different setup, because it does have to do with how we deal with the real. The real is, for those of you who aren't super familiar with Lacan, the real isn't just like what's real, but that when a child's born, it doesn't have symbolic language. It doesn't understand the world as we do. When I look around, I see door, wall, house, computer, dude on screen, all that stuff. We have a symbolic understanding of things. But prior to that, I don't really separate babies, and little children don't separate themselves from the world in the same way. Studies do back this up generally. I have a video of both my kids when they first had their mirror moment, where they went, oh my God, that's me. And the moment they have that, Lacan called it mirror stage, there starts to be a crack in things, because suddenly they realize that they're embodied in the world, not that they are the world. That difference of things, that distance sort of spreads, and it becomes that's my hand. Oh, that's and suddenly you start to see things symbolically. You have a break from the real. The real is inaccessible at that point. It is the stuff that cannot be communicated symbolically. Everything can, but we pave over it, is kind of the idea. And that universal castration that comes from this thing is the masculine subject. It's sort of a weird sort of thing in that way. So it's a whole setup. Yeah.
The argument that the same thing is true for masculinity. Like the stork observing the traumatic object of knowledge, the parent's sexuality, and therefore approving or disapproving so as to...
Yeah, the stork approves or disapproves. The child who doesn't want to deal with sex or hasn't been told about sex or just sees it goes, oh, and builds that myth in order to not have to deal with what's really happening there. They build the myth to do that. It's, again, Zizek's critique of ideology at a base level.
Bring a baby. Masculinity is the reconciliation of the traumatic knowledge of sexuality with a phantasmatic support frame, a myth that allows the individual to keep on functioning. In fact, this is how we can interpret Lacan's theory of sexuation. Il n'y a pas de rapport sexuel. There is no sexual relationship. Lacan says that, strictly speaking, nature is not enough. Man and woman, as biologically evolutionary-based organic individuals, are not enough. It has to be supplemented by a fantasy. It has to be supplemented by a distinctly non-natural category.
Yeah, so he calls it at one point the comedy of masculinity because it is very much an act, and like not comedy as in like, oh, ha, 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 but like comedy as in the term for Greek comedy, like the play act or the outward acting of a thing that is the masculine comedy. It's the pretense and setup of having what you lack. That's what the nature of the comedy. That's why he calls it that. So this thing that's there that I am to enjoy this thing I lack. I deal with the premise, and then this is, by the way, all this shit is why I ultimately moved. If you think Deleuze and Guattari are hard, I genuinely think Lacan is orders of magnitude more complex and difficult. Not wrong, not bad, any of that, just fucking, it's a whole thing. But like, the masculinity of this is ultimately about that, again, the demand to enjoy, the obscene injunction, because the masculinity has that secondary setup that Zizek talks about. So you have this like weird thing of like a mix of impotence and fetishism and neurosis and obsession underneath it all. And that's why masculinity exists kind of as it does for Lacan. It's really complicated. It's a lot.
And the way in which this fantasy is created and shaped is, of course, ideological. In fact, Zizek's theory of ideology is that ideology is a network or a system of phantasmatic frames that govern our desires. Which is to say, on a natural level, we copulate so as to continue existing as a species. But on an...
I don't think Zizek would agree with that, though, Julian. That essentializes the reasons for sex as being natural, that there is a drive to copulation for procreation, not a drive directly to enjoyment. And I don't think Zizek is biologically essentialist in that way. I might be wrong about this. Again, Zizek, especially lately, has sort of changed things a little bit, but the demand to enjoy, the obscene demand to enjoy, is core. And I don't think you would say the natural thing, because that doesn't really exist in the same way for Zizek.
Ideological level, we have to be taught how to desire and how to desire the other so as to facilitate this process. Therefore, for both Zizek and Lacan, masculinity and femininity are, strictly speaking, ideological categories that supplement the impossibility of a natural...
Why do I think so? I don't. You have to be more specific. I don't. If you just type like that, I have no idea what you're referring to.
Natural coexistence as such. In fact, Zizek...
I find it presumptuous of him to reduce Zizek to 11 minutes. I don't think it's presumptuous to do that. I think it's necessary to try to summarize, and he's not doing it in a way that he's dumbing it down. He's not. I don't think he's also going to be able to really communicate to anyone in a way that teaches them. It's very difficult to build content that does that bridge, where people who do not have I mostly understand everything he's saying. I also have a wall of Lacan's seminars and Zizek's books, a wall of them. God, do I have a wall of them? Fuck me. And I'm not very good at them, but I generally get what he's talking about. If you don't have that, I think you're going to be lost in the language very, very quickly. And I'm not going to disagree with you. It's not presumptuous. He's speaking to people who are like already in the choir using terminology that only the choir would know, which is a challenge. It's tough. It's tough to do.
It goes a step further, and he has a critique of the naturalist argument. The naturalist argument essentially presents a binary division between nature and culture, organic evolutionary existence versus culture as a essentially symptom thereof, which is to say,
I don't think culture is a symptom of nature in their writing. I would have to go back and read that, though. That feels like an interesting choice of words for that one.
the strictly speaking conservative position is that men and women are organically, biologically determined, and that any
Zizek uses movie scenes to talk about psychoanalytic concepts. I think that's actually, if I would just generally tell anyone, the model of philosophy is Zizek's book on Lacan called Everything You Want to Know About Lacan, But We're Afraid to Ask Hitchcock, or Strike That, Reverse It. I don't remember which one's first. Hitchcock, Lacan, Zizek. Find that book. It's cool. It's an amazing book. And he goes through a bunch of Hitchcock films, and he talks about them from a Lacanian perspective in a way that is not dumbing it down, but is brilliantly communicating it, like genuinely. It's, if anyone wants to get into Lacan or Zizek, it's the first book I recommend for everyone. You'll know if it's for you. Nothing he writes is easier than that book. So if you find that book dense and difficult or not fun, it's also probably one of the more fun because it's Hitchcock. Hitchcock's great. You should know Hitchcock. And that setup, I think there are other contributors. Yeah, no, it's a put together thing, but it's that process that he's doing that's fantastic in that. It's him. It's I want to say Linka's in there. Who else is in there? Nope, it's no Linka. There's a handful of essayists and then his. And it's, again, they're all fantastic. Like, all of the essays in it are very, 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 very good. And it doesn't dumb it down. I think it's possible. Granted, it's an hour video versus 12 minutes. I did a 20-minute video on resentment for Nietzsche, and I think I didn't dumb it down, and I think I communicated it. It's possible to do it. It's just very tough. Lacan specifically, I would say, is like philosophy on hard mode and content on hard mode, because there's just no way to make it outside of the language, which is, given Lacan's theory on language, pretty fucking hilarious, to be frank.
The argument against this is a perversion of nature. Zizek, however, argues that this essentialization of nature is itself a cultural category, which is to say,
Suresh, thank you. Sure shot. I got a similar idea by reading Paradise Lost and Intense Adolescent Existentialism. That's how I thought of the Tree of Knowledge and the separation from God Paradise as a subjectivity break. Yeah.
The essentialization of natural sexual differences is a cultural response to
the violence
any
of sex.
Attempt to undermine the seeming security of the phantasmatic ideological frame.
This is one of the big challenges I have is just the idea of ideology. I used to be able to argue for it really, really well, and then out the fucking door. So, one of the challenges is it presumes a great deal of things when it comes to meaning and how we sort of exist or how we exist socially. It presumes a lot of stuff. It presumes so much, and I have so many issues with it that we're not going to be able to get to tonight. But I've not been a fan of ideology as a concept. Reich, I think, makes the best sort of case for it. His critique is simple. With the idea of ideology, you are saying that other people are tricked and that you're able to see it. And I'm not sure there's a more arrogant thing to say in existence than everyone's an idiot but me, Homer says. Everyone's stupid but me. Pedro, I don't think Julian's dumbing it down. That's what I don't like. This is mostly vibe for me with him. There's just something off about his content. Yeah, it's tough. I mean, again, this is my first time seeing him. Seems fine. It just like I can see he's got his I recognize Eccrites, but I can see violence right here. You can see the right there, and I'm gonna bet that's Lenin right above it. Like I have a lot of these books, and I recognize the sides of them. So violence, I don't know. That's one of the Zizek books. Which one's that? I have it somewhere over there. But here, I'll show you. Hey. I wasn't joking. Eccrites is a very, very specific look on a book. Very specific. You can see it behind his head right there. Brown, white. Like it's and this is the least fun. This is one of the least fun books to read that has ever been written. Because it's not really a book, it's a collection of lectures that one of his lovely students, who's very, very clever himself, did. But it's hard for me to even it can't even pick apart. I could right now, if you guys were to be like, hey Brooks, do a paragraph from Anti-Oedipus, which is notoriously like this dense, hilariously silly thing, I could do it. Give me a paragraph out of that, and I would be like, not sure what I'm saying as I say it. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. Oof. Violence is fantastic. Zizek had a lot of great books. I recommended, someone asked, what's the best book? What do you pick? Ticklish Subject. Ticklish Subject is my actually favorite Zizek book. I actually think that's my favorite one because it applies to a lot of other thinking. It's good stuff.
And, strictly speaking in a Lacanian sense, if this phantasmatic frame is constitutive to the subject, i.e., it is necessary for him to live because it papers over his traumatic encounter with the knowledge of the parent's sexuality, this means that any attack on sexuality as such is an attack on the subject. In fact, many conservatives, I think, do understand this, that
you have to be very careful here when you talk about it, because an attack on sexuality is not, man, the language is really tough here. Trans people are an attack on sexuality. And that's the trouble with this language. And Zizek does use that, and it's one of the things you want to talk about, stuff that gets him in trouble. And he's not wrong in like the Lacanian sense. And I'm not talking about, it's not an anti-trans view, but this is the reason that the normative position sees this as it's an attack on sexuality, the existence of more malleable movement. Ooh, spooky. But actually it is. It's actually an attack on sexuality when he's saying it. So like again, he's right when he says like masculinity isn't like a thing that's bred into us, or like Brooks is very masculine because he was born that way. It's like, no, it's actually as I grew and I didn't have that, I found myself castrated, unable to deal with the world. Masculinity was the way that I was taught to deal with that. Femininity is almost the opposite. It's taught to deal with it by being fragile. Of course, Lacan famously said there are no such thing as women. There's a lot of things there. But with that, it's like masculinity is how I'm covering up the wound of castration that exists, my separation from the world, the impotence that I exist with. And it's why you see a lot of people who experience excessive, Elon Musk doesn't have a working dick. You want to talk about impotence? And then he does this. He's overdoing the masculine. These things exist because of the impotence, the wound. They cover the wound. And when a trans woman or trans man exists, it like, hi, I'm a wound. How you doing? It's like, oh God, I have to deal with, oh God, don't attack sexuality. You're attacking sexuality. Ideology exists beyond the person. You're not attacking my sexuality. You're attacking sexuality, the normative position that's sort of there. More or less. I am oversimplifying, but I don't think badly either though.
to attack the nature.
Yeah, it's violence. This is one of the things about Violence, the book, which is great, and I do recommend it, is Zizek's definition of violence is really important when we talk about this. And so when we use the term and we say something like Pedro's saying in chat, he's like, this is violent. This is a violent attack. It's, think about it in terms not of bodily violence, but in terms of how much of a mental whiplash a thing gives you, right? If you are a religious Amish guy who's out on Rumspringa and you meet a gorgeous trans woman and you find out like the deterritorialization, reterritorialization, the mental whiplash that you experience. And we've all been there in one way or another in some capacity throughout our entire lives where we're like, wait, what? That's violence. It's the violence to the fabric of things. That's violence. It's really important. Ideological culture shock. No, again, this is why I hate this language a lot. It's more complicated than that and also less complicated than I'm making it. And I'm sorry, that's terrible.
Nature of sexuality is an attack on.
Convenience tells it like we're a danger to the family. Yes, trans people existing is an attack on the family. I wear my nail polish out. I have pink shirts and pink hair. I am doing violence to the normative position of sexuality just by existing. And then, like, the worst thing is when people like make a comment and then they see me like, they think I'm like, I don't know what people think. They don't know what to think when I'm giving shoulder rides to my son and I talk in a deep voice like that thing. I break a lot of that in every direction. And so it's like, okay. And it's violence. It's an existence of violence. Violence to the symbolic order, violence to the symbolic change, violence to the meaning of things as you exist in it. Right? And because it starts with all of us experience the violence of being ripped from a womb of sorts, which is being one with the real, one with everything. They've done experiments and studies on children. Children, until they're like 2 or 3, don't see mom as a separate person, which is it's a weird thing to think of. But again, what's the edges of your world? How do you find your body? Well, mom's there all the time. Or dad. I mean, it can be any, but it's that person is there all the time and they're feeding you, taking care of you, doing what you need. You cry, they respond just like you would. So you don't see the difference. And that estrangement, that separation anxiety that comes from poorly extracting that, this is what kind of the real is. The real is all of it. And a baby that's growing that doesn't have separation of these things, it's not dealing with that. They have no idea what's going on until they have that moment of realizing that the world is symbols, and that's how they're engaging with it, and it breaks everything. Speaking of, hey, Vi, what are you doing? You are in my office. You could do what? Oh, I'm not going to play Get You right now, but I bet you Brubby will. You want to go chase Dexter? No? Okay. Well, I'm going to keep talking here. Do you want to hang out? I have no idea what she wants. All right. Speaking of, she's now getting to that point. So it's a really fascinating setup because as we experience and go through that process for Lacan, again, I'm not speaking for everyone. I don't actually buy into this in the same way. I do think a lot of this is accurate. It's complex in a different way. But for Lacan, it is that tear, that it's violently, and that's violence. So at that point, anytime that this happens, which will happen a lot to all of us, it's violence. Some people more, some people less. And that ends up becoming this sort of, as I go through my existence, I'm covering up for the traumatic realities that are providing the very stage with which I exist in. Yeah. All right. Hey, guys. Those are a little loud. Hey, Dex. Can you take Violet and go play Jason upstairs? you to do? Huh? What do you want? I'm not going to get you. Not doing it right. You know, I'm streaming. I'm on right now. Yeah, I know, Goober. All right. But that's kind of the idea. You having fun, Goober? I have a goober. I have actually two goobers. How do you take someone like Doug Lane and his... I have a lot of issues with a lot of people. So we'll just leave it as that. Hey, Heather, it'd be great if they were to go chase upstairs. If they were to go chase upstairs, that'd be great. I am streaming right now. Yeah, that'd be great. There's this toy. She's got these plastic balls. You drop them, and it makes this really cool sound. It goes thump, 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 thump. It's really fucking loud. Not in our room. Not in our room would be great. Yes. Yes, that's right. Correct. That'd be great. Those kids fucking love it. It's parenting is very strange. I didn't want kids. I was actually child free for a long time, and just very much that. It just changed. It's life is weird like that. But Doug is in this. It's very difficult when people are in, like, the trans thing is, because it is a very much a, and I get like Zizek's point on this about how it's doing violence to the symbolic and social orders. I think there is some level of that I think we can empathize with, that idea, because I think even trans people I know, or I mean anyone in the spectrum, they all kind of get that and they experience it in one way or another. But there's also this other side of it where I like the very idea, and there is this very specific thread that trans people are specifically those who have only the desire to be completely the opposite. I've gone over Sarah Crimmon, who's one of my favorite authors on this, Man-Made Woman. It's one of my favorite books on the nature of the complexity of this, I'll just say. And I highly recommend it. If you get a chance, pick it up. It's amazing. But it's like the reasons that people do things. It is not that I am a man, or I am a woman, or I was inherently born this way, or I was that. It's that I am traversing through those things. And there is no absolute stable me. There is just a metastable process that is me. And that complexity, that understanding, is absolutely doing violence to very much the idea of everything we hold dear in society, flatly. And trans people are part of that. They are. So are people not wanting to have families. So are people, the non-work movement, the anti-work movement, like you name a thing that starts breaking stuff down, they're all that. And they're all pushing in sort of that direction. It's a very complex thing. So you have people who, they are anti-identitarian or they're pro-identitarian, because to them, and especially, this is a thing with older people that I have empathy for to a point. When you existed in a time where very specific lines were drawn, and it's a different thing than like a 15-year-old who's trans now deals with versus like in my high school, there was the kid who everyone kind of knew was gay. There were probably trans kids too. Like, I'm not saying there weren't, but there was not. It wasn't a discussion. That was not a thing. And at the same time, even the homosexuality was not a thing. So when you have these very particular binaries that people spend their time adjusting themselves against, and when that wall breaks, as there was, like the trans thing, I would say, especially in media, there became like this wall breaking where people were like, hey, suddenly there's Transparent as a show, for example, or just the idea of like very particular uses of it. These dams break, but it does so in opposition to a binary by sort of embracing its own binary. And that thing then becomes what they were fighting for, but also they forget that that thing they're fighting for was actually just because they were opposed to this, but now they're fighting for that negative. And you see it a lot with like the rad femmes, the the TERFs and all of that, like this is very much how they exist. They were fighting for a thing for 30, 40 years, but they forgot that like the thing that led them down the path, like the process that led them down the path is the thing they should care about. But their narrative was against this. And so they're this. And so now that like there's other stuff that's not this, everyone who's not that must be against this. And it's, again, I have empathy to a point. I think it's awful and childish and they're generally shitty people, but I have empathy because it's tough to be an activist in a lot of positions. And as I get older, I have a deeper understanding of sort of what it feels like to have fought against or been part of a thing. And then, you know, trying not to look at the kids and go, well, I don't know about that. Like I get the impulse because, early 2000s, being anti-war was not popular. Being pro-Palestine was really not popular. Really not popular. Being pro-Arab at all at the time. But, you know, the kind of existence that you would have when you were protesting, it would be for things because otherwise slogans didn't work. People didn't work. But that type of existence is a different type of advocacy. It's not our engagement with it wasn't as deep as I think we have now. Is certainly my critique has grown and changed myself, but the entire movement in the last few years is leaps and bounds beyond. And so the question would be, as someone who was advocating for that thing 20 years ago, I get, or more than that, 25, 26 years ago now, if you spent 26 years fighting for that and then this dam breaks and there's a whole bunch of stuff to fight for, how do you know when that happens? How do you know when you're in the wrong place? And again, I mean, this is what Pedro was talking about. This is why I dig the idea from Zizek that all of it is violence, that it's one of the first things I really embraced and I still do, that we need to get away from the idea that violence is only this thing that, oh, I hurt someone physically or I tore some skin or I shot someone or this other stuff. It's like, no. Violence happens on multiple levels and in multiple ways, and we need to embrace all of the types and how it works, because once you have an understanding of that level of violence, to me, it gives you a better sociological understanding of why people do what they do. Because if all of it's violence, then suddenly how you endure, how you handle, and how people right themselves against it makes more sense. Even if it's not the right way, it makes more sense, if that makes sense. If that makes sense. But it's tough. And I'll tell you, I always go with the Jug Stanhope line with you kids, because it's a very strange thing. And he laughed about it. There's a weird thing that happened between like his generation to my generation. Like I'm a Zennial. I'm a very bottom of Gen X, and he's in that. And he's like, every generation always complains about the next. You know, our parents would say, look at these kids. Like their great grandparents would go, look at these kids. They're going to be smoking marijuana with the black people. Like that, the next generation is always the more perverse, the more degraded, the ones ruining everything. They're the wild, crazy, going to ruin everything that needs to hold back. And as he jokes, we're the first generation who's like, can you guys do more? This stuff. It's a different time frame and it's a different place, and the world is very different than when I was growing up. So it's very tough to be able to measure it against. It's very difficult. It's hard for me to describe how different the world is now from the 90s without sounding like a completely ignorant white guy, which I was. And again, I don't think that type of ignorant white guy, which was very prevalent in the 90s, I don't think that exists anymore in the same way. And I think there's a lot of changes there that are pretty huge, actually. Like, there's big changes. You crazy kids with your Pac-Man video games and 10 Fogelberg records. I love it. You're not with it, man. I used to be with it, but then what it was changed. Now what's it is new and scary, and it will happen to you. I'm done with this video. I appreciate Julian. I don't want to take a nap today, though. So, video 2. Let's do it. We're going to start poll. Now what? And it's going to be OpenAI Apocalypse. office space, vitalism, and freedom. No, oh my God, really? Freedom and vitalism. There we go. I am not spending time typing this, so I don't really care. Vote away, vote away, vote away, vote away, vote away, vote away, vote away. No AI, please. Well, so here's the thing. I normally wouldn't, but if you don't know Navarro Media, one, you should, if you're on the left at all. Navarro Media is wonderful. Specifically a handful
Who
of
is
people that they
bankrolling
have.
Navarro Media? The short answer is you are. 76% of our funding comes directly from supporters. 16% comes from YouTube, including your super chats or super thanks made during Navarro Live.
Genuinely, they're very good for the most part. I have qualms, but they do generally good work as far as shit goes. And I don't actually see a lot of what I would say are people who really engage on the left with issues doing stuff on AI. And they haven't done a lot on AI except the general normal critique for the most part. So that is actually what makes this very interesting to me. I think it's fascinating. And I think it's a worthwhile moment. Don't vote for it. We won't do it. Whatever ends up being last, I'm not going to force on everyone else. We'll end up doing, one sec, Shaky tossed a second one in. Oh.
That is the motor of world history.
It is Ash, literally a communist sarkar, yes. Who has forever for that. She will be able to do no wrong. I will forever consider her a wonderful comrade in every way. Just for that fucking moment, it was glorious. And I'm not saying it was like I didn't expect her to be brave or anything, but there's a moment in the reality of her existence where it was genuinely a way to say that was out there and brave. And it was a big deal to a lot of people, I think. And so she will forever be a hero for me. She rules. This is The Warrior Philosopher. Russell Water and I discuss his essay, Norwood Nietzschean, which covers the impact of Bronze Age mindset, Nietzschean philosophy, and the state of the dissident right. This is right-wing Nietzsche. Yeah, BAP. Yep. I think the ideal is becoming rather than being. Self-overcoming is a continuous endeavor. Though most of us won't be Caesar, we can use the philosophy of Nietzsche to be a good legionary in his army. You can't do that with Bugman philosophy, you can with our philosophy. Wow. That'll be a thing. It looks like freedom is winning hard and far and fast and away. Cole Hastings, 15,000 views. Freedom to do whatever we want. That's what most people think they want. I would argue that sort of life would make most people miserable. In this video, I explain the concept of freedom versus agency and why people really want agency when they talk about freedom. And I don't believe in either. I don't believe in either. So this will be fun. Let's do it.
You don't want total freedom. You think you want that because that's what we've been told our entire lives to strive for. But what you really want is agency. Now, let me see if I can prove this to you. When we were kids, one of the biggest reasons why we wanted to grow up was to have the freedom to do what we want, to know that our choices are our own. Our parents had a say in most of what we did when we were children. We couldn't go over to a friend's house unless we asked them first. We couldn't choose a certain career unless our parents approved of it. We couldn't wait to have the ability to choose whatever we wanted to choose. But what happens when you get there?
There's no such thing as choice.
When you get to the point where there's an endless amount of possibilities you could go, and that leaves you completely paralyzed. This is the paradox of freedom, is that once you attain freedom, what you actually want isn't more of it, it's less of it through agency and through using your agency to restrict your freedom. I think it's the philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre that says the extreme butterflies we feel when we're looking over the edge of a cliff isn't because it's a very tall height and because our biology is signaling to us, hey, this is dangerous, don't do it. Although I think that is part of it. But because we know we have the choice to jump off that cliff.
So there's a fundamental problem with sort of the order of events when it comes to what choice is. The idea that I make a choice, one, that there is an I, and two, that there is a choice that I'm able to make that is not fully at the whim of the forces, passions, desires, and everything coursing through the existence of myself and everything around me, that ultimately is actually making things happen. And in retroactivity, I am deciding why a thing happened and what I wanted, therefore I wanted that thing. There's no reason to believe choice exists in that sense. There's also no such thing as determinism. I reject both wholly. I think the liberal sort of middle ground of like, well, you have freedom and agency. I don't give a shit, honestly, about any of that. What you want, what you're interested in, is the Spinoza sense, which is potentius and potestas. Two words he uses. They're Latin. They both mean power. And this is one of the things of when things get translated into English. We do this a lot. We go, hey, you want the power to change what you want to change, which is agency, the power to change things. But what kind of power is that? Is it potentius, which is like electricity when we say power, the energy, the force, the power to change a thing, the power to lift this phone? Or is there potestas, which is more legislative? I want the power to, I don't know, make my neighbors move. I want the power to call myself a woman. I want the power to do, it's not the same thing. Potentium and potestas aren't the same type of power. But for Spinoza, and this is important because this carries through, by the way, through Nietzsche, through Deleuze, Bergson, Klosowski, Jameson, and others, all of it hinges on, first, the forces that are actually enabling that. As I exist and as the forces that make me up interact with the world around me, I sort of find myself attracted to or repulsed by lots of things. Things are attracted or repulsed. I'm going to take a sip of my Sprite can because it was right there. I'm choosing it, though. In retroactivity, I say to myself, yes, that's what I would want. And then I make the choice to do it. But there is no moment of choice, not really. If you didn't have the forces pushing you, you wouldn't do it in the first place. So choice is irrelevant. It's downline. It's a trick we play on ourselves. But the idea of predestiny or all of this being preset and that fate is taking over for us is the other half of that. It's presuming that there's causation at all. Nietzsche does away with both of these, by the way. He refuses to believe in the causative nature of things because it depends on how we talk about it. Deleuze uses one of the great old sort of lines from the Stoics, but it's when a surgeon is operating on a patient and they have a scalpel, we say the scalpel cuts the skin. The scalpel's cutting the skin. Why? We could easily just say that the skin is dulling the scalpel. Like there's no reason for it, but it's because we privilege one thing and a particular action and point of view as we do it, which creates directionality and a vector in the existence of that event. And we do it all the time. I'm doing it literally as I'm talking right now. So I'm creating vectors and you're following them based on your attraction or repulsion to me doing it. And as we're doing that, you're either coming with me or not. I don't really give a fuck. Go have fun, eat shit and die. I don't give a shit. But that thing that's happening, and then you say, you know what? I don't like Brooks. I'm going to choose to watch something else. Yeah, good for you. Just like the people who are staying here are choosing to stay here. Just like I'm choosing to have this conversation. No, the passions of things make things happen. We claim them after the fact as our own. Oh boy, I'm hungry. Really? There's no such thing as that. That's actually not a thing. Weird to say, but it's true. Babies aren't hungry. They have excessive discomfort. The discomfort is in various places in their stomach and other places, and maybe a little headachy. And so they cry because they're uncomfortable. They get fed. The feeding satiates that. So they associate eating with satisfaction. We do this a lot, but eating gets mixed in with other stuff. The warmth of our mom's breast, the breath she's got, her heartbeat, the room, maybe music, maybe light, maybe sound, maybe smell, the smell of her skin, the smell of the milk, the smell of the dog, whatever's around. All of these things get mixed in with satisfaction. And we do it over and over and over and over and over. And so when a child says, I'm hungry, it's because they've been taught that collection of things is hunger. And that's all of us. I'm hungry, I'm sad, I'm blah, blah, blah. Fucking none of it matters. It's not even close to a biological determinism. It's the opposite of a biological determinism. It's the elimination of the biological determinism, because your biology isn't what does this. It's not a biological center. There's no biology in hunger. It's the emergence of the passions and forces of things that are making themselves known through the surfacing of all these things that you claim as yourself, ultimately.
We know we could if we wanted to, and that's what gives us anxiety, knowing we can do anything. And I think, in general, people have a lot more freedom than they think.
I got to go back because
although I think that is part of it, but because we know we have the choice to jump off that cliff.
But you don't, so do you have the choice? The person who does do it obviously did, but did they have a choice not to jump off the cliff? Kind of weird how choice works that way, isn't it? Always that way, 100% of the time, in every single way?
No, we could if we wanted to, and that's what gives us...
Tuxedo Mask, beyond our current capacity for comprehension, but nonetheless following causal chain. Nope, no causal chain. These things aren't necessarily causative. They're related, and it's a series of intensive satisfaction and emotive moments that are then inlaid in the repetition of moments and experience. It's far more complex. It is. This is not easy shit. But the idea of a person making a choice begs a fucking million questions. What is a person? Who's making the choice? What is that thing? We don't actually have any way of sorting that or setting that up. It's only the collection of all of it. But at that point, is there an I? Is it all of it? Is it all of it that the can's color is one of the reasons I drink it, because I associate with Sprite, the green specifically, a nice refreshing beverage? So the green did it. Is the green part of me? Or is my reaction to it not inclusive of that? Where do I end and where does the can begin that makes me thirsty, that makes me drink it, that makes me make that choice? These things, this is one of the challenges that I used the word Terry a lot the other day when I was talking with Michael. And someone asked me about it, Sirius asked me about it. The reason I use the word Terry, it's a Hegelian word and it's a great word. Zizek uses it in his book on Hegel called Tarrying with the Negative. But the word of Terry, like Tarry, Terry, it means to linger and hold in the discomfort. If you're following me and you aren't fully understanding, you have kind of a couple options. You can simplify what I'm saying so it's comfortable. You can move away from it and say, I'm a stupid fuck. Or you can tarry with it by letting the difficulty and the contradiction and the complexity actually sit with you, and you're forced to deal with the thing. You tarry with it. And I think it's important for people to tarry with complicated ideas like this and sit with the discomfort of the natural and obvious contradictions in what it means for a person to have a choice. Because they don't. People don't have choices. People do the thing that they're doing. We call it choice so we feel better about it, but also because the logic of the market demands that choice be part of it. Just imagine a world where the market wasn't really a thing and none of us actually had choices. Oh, wait, that would break the legitimacy of the market as a thing. Huh. Wait, all these millennials are choosing not to buy houses. Right? All these Gen Zers choosing not to get jobs out of college, choosing to live at home. right? That's it. You hear that language, but it doesn't work. What choice? Do you think people are making these choices? What is freedom? What the fuck does that even mean? That's the problem. That's the problem. That this thing, agency, freedom, and debating about it gives credence, gives power to that hilarious idea that the market is what decides.
This anxiety, knowing we can do anything. And I think in general, people have a lot more freedom than they think. Technically, you could just completely start an entirely new life. You could scalp up as much money as you possibly could, buy a one-way ticket somewhere.
No, most people can't, actually. Most people don't have that choice. Oh, you mean that they have the money, or they have the potential for doing that, and they don't make the choice? Sure. This is possible and real. It's the reason that, like, I've never really liked those designations. Everything's possible. It's what a useless fucking category of anything. Yes. And he could choose to, I don't know, ram his head into the wall, but he doesn't choose to do that. He could choose to just start saying the N-word, but he doesn't. That's no.
And try to build up an entirely new identity, a new life. You have the freedom to do that, although the consequences would surely be potentially catastrophic.
See?
And right now, I think you even have more freedom with your day-to-day routine than you think. A lot of it, yes, is restricted. It's not by your own doing. And this is why we think we want freedom, because as we grew up as adults, we didn't actually get the freedom that we thought we were promised.
This is the familialism of how we are taught. This is one of the reasons I love Anti-Oedipus and Deleuze and Guattari's work. The idea of the family and how the family teaches us to behave and act so we work within capitalism and we function properly is really important. Back in the day of kings, we basically, as people, were subjects. It's where the term subjectivity and all that sort of comes from. We were subjects of the king. The king would yell at us and go, do this, do that, and we would do it because we were subjects of the king. Capital changes things, though. Capital obliterates that. There's now really no leader. There's no one telling us what to do. It's not really how it works, not from on high where it dictates it. Instead, when we're growing and we're in the house, as he literally said, you had to do what your parents said. You learned to do X, Y, and Z. Get home at certain times because your parents said so. Respect your parents. Do good work. Do these chores. Do these things. But these aren't hard rules. And very often, parents would say things like, well, look, if you cared, you would do these things. Or if you want to be a part of the house, you do these things. Zizek has the great example of the kid who doesn't want to visit his parents, his grandparents. I don't want to visit grandma. If you love me, and if you're a good child, you will do this. You will visit and you will be happy, which is like the mind full of fuck of a child. And how many times what happens over time is we learn rules. Deleuze and Guattari talk about it as axiomatics. We learn how things go together, sort of in almost a set theory of existence. It's more complex than that, but we learn how things are associated and related based on the rules our parents taught us. And then when we grow up and we become free, as he's talking about, it's not that we lack freedom or that we wish we had agency. It's that the way that those rules functioned taught us to repress ourselves and, in fact, enjoy our own repression, just like he's enjoying and excited about the level of agency he gets to have and how no one wants freedom. You don't want freedom. You don't want to be in like emancipatory politics. Why would you want revolutions to change things? What you really need is to be held back in just the right way. And you need to make choices that are just difficult to really make a man out of you. I don't know what he was going to say, but it just feels like that's it. Does the concept of choice not existing have a name or title? Can I get the name of the person who wrote about it so I can read into it more? Actually, there's a handful. Let me see if I've got a couple of papers on this. Because Nietzsche, by the way, Nietzsche, Gay Science, Genealogy of Morals, a handful of those things I think would be good. Zizek actually has a decent sort of version of this. Puppet and the Dwarf. It's a religious thing, but it's playing into sort of that idea of like how ideological choice is actually for us. Jameson, I just did the book Postmodernism. Jameson's entire thing is that the culture of capitalism is where the market dictates everything, and that includes choices. You're actually not making choices, but the market's choosing for you. I'm not sure I fully agree with that, but it's, again, the same type of thing. Masumi's Politics of Affect, that's a decent one. I've got that. Jonathan Crary has a great book called 24/7 Late Capitalism and the Ends of Sleep. And it is about how we do not actually have, I enjoy this book a great deal, 24/7, and it's like really cool cover. 24/7 is like big on the cover. It's Jonathan Crary, Crary. If you come to the Discord, I'll pop a bunch of these PDFs in. I'm just going through my PDFs list. Basically, capitalism, because it's always going and never slowing down. For him, he says it's actually, to him, proof that we actually don't even have temporality that would enable choice in the first place, which is a hell of an argument. He's not even like dealing with like the discomfort of like subjectivity. He's like, you think you have choice? Who the fuck has time? Ain't nobody got time for choice. Like, it's like that kind of thing, which I again, I really like. Cruel Optimism by Berlant was pretty good to this, because it's about how choice is sort of made for you. But again, it's not the same thing. There's not a lot of people who've really dove into it outside of Deleuze-Guattari, a handful of people around him, Aberrant Movements by La Poujade, and a few others, but it's not explicitly that. So that'd probably be my list. Jonathan Crary, Crary. Bell Hooks is good. I mean, there's a lot of people who write around this. But again, I think Nietzsche would probably be one of the best, because he goes squarely at the silliness, the arrogance, and the childishness of choice. Because, he does it. Gay Science, I think, goes through it very nicely. Yeah. Yes, 24/7 Late Capitalism and Ends of Sleep. It's a really good read. At a minimum, it's a really good read. But he goes into it and about how, like, that's how the market operates, but it's also how we operate. We don't have time anymore, which is a depressing thing.
We realize, there's a lot of things I need to do to survive. I need to pay my bills, and I need to have enough money left over to pay for food and for shelter. And the only way I can get the money required to pay for those things is to get a job. Oh, okay. Well, let's see. What jobs could I choose? I guess I'm kind of restricted in that sense. The job market's pretty terrible. Now I got to choose this job I don't even like. And basically half your day is spent being ordered around by someone who has agency over you. You don't have the freedom to choose what you do during those hours. And then when you get home, you feel like, I don't have enough energy to even go on and try to figure out how to break out of this system. But you do have the freedom to choose what to do with your time, at least outside of work. But we don't really want to admit that. We don't want to admit that we could choose to be a person who goes after their goals. We would like to believe we don't.
And get what he's doing. He's doing the like classic sort of Marxist. It's not really choice. Agency is where you have affirmative freedoms rather than just the lack of regulations and controls. I get it. It's the abandoned island coconut metaphor that online left was using for a while. That horsefucker shit. Yeah, it's great. I don't know.
Don't have as much freedom in what we do.
Worse than that, someone has agency of you who doesn't have agency over themselves either. That is kind of where that starts to fit, and then that person doesn't have agency. So who has agency in any of this? Well, then how do things happen?
And that is not to dismiss systemic oppression. It exists. We all have limits to how easy it is to achieve things in this life. And it's going to vary based on how we look, how other people perceive us. Those things are very real. And the system that we live in, they're very real. And I'm not dismissing that by saying you have more freedom than you think. I'm just saying, like, philosophically, you could technically choose to live a completely different life than you are right now, but you'd rather not, because we actually like not having the total freedom to choose whatever we want in this life. And that's what I mean by people don't want freedom. It's not that people don't want control over their actions. It's that if they had the possibility to do anything that they wanted, I think that would paralyze most people. You don't want the ability to do anything. You want the ability to have control over what you do. Think of a person.
Potentious. It's a decent way to talk about it. But again, we'll see how he talks about agency, because agency is a very interesting thing, especially if you've spent time studying how video games are developed or actually made some. Agency is a very, very interesting thing to talk about, because video games, it's what we talk about. You don't have freedom in it. You have agency in it. You have agency. And so, yeah.
Who has no responsibilities. Having no responsibilities is true freedom. Do you think they're truly happy with their lives?
See, this is it becomes almost sophistry at some point, because if someone has agency, they're making choices, and the choices they're making are then limiting further choices. And in doing so, like, they have responsibilities that do limit, because if you've made a choice, you have to deal with that choice. The idea that you wouldn't have to deal with it is silly. I decide to have sex and have children and all this. You're going to do that. But then I'm not free because how does that work at that point?
Having no response.
It does feel like he's heading towards Jordan Peterson. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt, but is it moronic to describe reality as a game where you have agency? Yes, games are. So games specifically, and the reason that people like the idea of the Matrix, or that this is a simulation or a game, is because that means there are rules. That's the reason people like it. They may not be for you, but it's the presumption that there are rules. The idea of everything's a simulation, Elon Musk bullshit, it's the same as God made the world. There's no fucking difference on an ontological level, because it's, hey, there are known rules. Someone knows them. I may not know the rules, but those rules are here. It's all bullshit. Games have edges, rules, and specific setups inside of it that actually give people space to have agency. That's why games have a huge amount of agency, is actually rigid, closed systems. Open systems, you can't really have agency in the same way, because you can't write yourself. And in the world we live in, there is no writing yourself and there is no choices. That's the deal.
Responsibilities and no sense of purpose. Because that is what a life of complete freedom looks like. No responsibilities, no purpose. I would argue that they're very lost. They don't know what to do with their time because they have too.
This is a conservative human being. This is a reactionary human being. That's not, if he ends up not being one and he ends up like pulling this fucking nosedive out, I'll mea culpa, but I'll let you know right now, I'm not going to have to mea culpa.
Too much freedom. So what do you do when you have all of that time and lack of responsibilities?
You do whatever the passions take you as. Someone said online the best way to put it, I want a world where if a person is born, they can kind of just do whatever, like wherever, and then, and then do that for just 60, 70 years and then die. And they should be able to eat and have food and clothing and a house, a home, roof over their head. And you should be free to whatever the world's taking you, wherever things are taking you.
Well, you use the agency you have to create responsibilities that restrict your freedom. Any successful person or anybody.
As this person is, I have so many slurs going through my mind right now. Any successful person, you can tune them out. That's it. That's all you need to know. People who are successful don't have responsibilities. Not like you and I have them. Not like normal people have them. This is the money doesn't buy happiness thing. And then the Mitch Hedberg line, you ever seen someone frown on a jet ski?
Somebody who has that total freedom because they are, let's say, living with their parents, and their parents are they're very understanding of your situation, and they just let you kind of live at their house and do whatever you want, and they're not really pushing you to get a job or anything. Like that type of person, what would make those people's lives more fulfilled is if they...
This is a Jordan Peterson person, whoever called it, that 100%. That's wild.
Restricted their freedom at that point. Using their agency. And purpose and responsibility imply narrowing your freedom. When you have a purpose, it means you're aligning yourself to a certain lifestyle, to a certain goal.
Elon Musk is addled with responsibility after procreating with God. Again, his dick doesn't work. He sends them to an appointment where a turkey baster gets shoved up him, and they get... and he just thinks it's the best thing ever that he's procreating. Yep. Do you know how I know Elon Musk has less responsibility? He's doing ketamine in the fucking White House during a press conference. Like, fuck you. I want to do ketamine. Like, fuck you. Like, what the fuck?
When you have goals...
Successful people responsibility. Have you seen, like, find me rich people who like, oh, it's wild. Oh, God, he sucks. Oh, this guy sucks. Damn. It was so general and then went right there.
Immediately implies that there are things you cannot do. So if you have the goal to, let's say, make $100,000 in a year, well, that immediately implies you can't slack a lot.
How do you know? Like, it doesn't imply that. Like, do you understand how logic works? Stupid. You got to have the first thing you have to do is make the statement, and then we can test it. I have an example. Hey, if you're going to make $100,000 this year, you cannot do nothing. Yes, but what about if you're a trust fund kid? Well, you can do nothing then. Okay, good job. Oh, but what if you're poor and you want to make $100,000? Oh, well, then you're fucked. You actually can't make $100,000 this year. The chances are you can't. In fact, you don't have the agency or freedom to do that. But trying, that builds character. That puts calluses on your hands. And that's the real thing. That's the real thing you care about.
You cannot play video games a lot. You cannot go out every single day and just party. You have to restrict yourself from doing those things if you truly want to reach that goal. And that person, I believe, when they have that strong purpose, that strong guiding light, will be...
Who's that strong guiding light, who's clearly making choices and having agency. Just so happens that they're doing it in line with this guiding light and this thrust forward and this drive forward. Jesus Christ.
More happy, fulfilled, and at peace than the person with no purpose, no responsibilities, and no goals, which is the person who has ultimate freedom. So this is why I say what you're really looking for is agency, because if more of what you were doing on a day-to-day basis... So
he's using agency in the right way. See, what he's saying, because he's a coward, a coward little baby pussy. And I mean that. I mean that in all the derogatory ways. Cowardly little baby pussy, like Jordan Peterson, what they're terrified of is not having rules because they don't know what they would do. What if I could be anything? What if I could be a woman? What if I could be a child? What if I could be a dad? What if I could also be a mom? What if I could also be an uncle? What if I could also be rich? What if I could also be poor? What if I could do all these things? What if everyone just could do whatever? I'm scared of that. That scares me because they were raised in a strict home that they're terrified of the idea of those badly behaved kids. I don't want to be like them. I don't want to be like them. They don't have a purpose in life. They don't have a purpose. Eat shit, coward.
It was things that you could control.
Yeah,
it was
can't
things
control
that
anything. So
you decided you were going to do, and no one else had a say in them. Then, even if you,
I didn't notice. Oh, fuck! This is what I get for not noticing. Every fucking time, I'm gonna just extend this. Tell me if you can see what I missed. Fuck. See, it's like peacocking that you're a cowardly fuck. Hashtag self-improvement. Every time. Every time. Every time.
if you were working tons of hours a day, you would be way more at peace, way more fulfilled than if you had complete and total freedom. So no, you don't want endless.
Does he have a follow-up if you assert the opposite? No, of course not. See, for him, the whole thing, the person who's, they use language like this too. The successful person is driven, which means they don't make the choice. Like literally, driven is like no agency. They're being driven. A car has no agency. They use language like that for successful people. But people who have freedom, well, they're not to be successful. They don't have a drive. They don't have a singular goal. They're not going in one direction. Oh, whoa. There are a multitude of things. Gross. That scares me. That scares me, Mom.
Options. That's not what you should strive for in life. You don't want to relieve yourself of all responsibilities and relieve yourself of purpose because
of purpose. There you go. And it's sad because again, the coincidence of the order, and I'm a big fan of this, the coincidence of the order. If we pay attention to the last video where we talk about masculinity and how the demand for the masculine, which is this is that, is not performative, but dealing with the utter wound that exists of being someone who's impotent. Now it makes sense, right? Does everyone get it? Like this is the embodiment of what we were watching in the other video. What are the chances?
Because of that. You want to create a life in which you can say you want to do something and you can actually do it. And you want to be able.
Yes. See, and this is why agency isn't the word. Not really. Freedom also maybe not, but emancipation. The removal of repressive tendencies or directions or a social order that demands that. Because if a person wants to spend their lives learning to do origami or painting, good. They should be able to do that and live and be fine. I'm not saying they should be billionaires. No one's saying that. Stupid people. That's not it. But people should be free to do whatever because they're human. It makes everyone better, by the way, when that's the case. Literally makes everyone better. It's great. What is masculinity? Well, it's fake. So
to work on things that restrict your freedom, but they're things that you actually want to do. It's that simple. The question is, how do you create a life like that, right? It requires first expanding your freedom. This is like a 3-step.
And I'm always in love with, if you watch the comments, people like go pink hair and then they're like, they make comments about me like that I'm not masculine. And I'm just like, I'm always stunned. Like, as far as the semiotics of masculinity, this isn't it, and this guy is. I love it. This is how confusing the reality of masculinity is. because this is not masculine because of the pink or the way I groom myself or I overdo this or whatever, nail polish, or I have my lovely, if you didn't notice, by the way, this is a Kurt Cobain shirt that has actual, it's a throwback. There's a wonderful brand that I love, Devil Nut. It's out of China. Fantastic fucking weird designs. But this is Kurt Cobain, and the whole thing is actually like a thermal net. It's the netting, like his old shirts in the zebra. I was a big Nirvana fan. And then the back says, back in utero. Come on. But this is not the semiotics of masculinity. He is. Think about it. That's the fun part. It's wonderful. I love Devil Nut. You don't even know. Devil Nut's like one of the coolest fucking brands. They have this, but it's like, because it was China, this is why I went nuts. I bought a bunch of shirts. This is the only one that survived because I barely wear it because it actually has sequins. The glasses are actual sequins. Do you have any sequin shirts? No. You should. Everyone should have sequins.
A process I kind of explained in my 20-year-old man-child epidemic video. If you want to...
And it's like, so what if I started a grift? It's like, hey, here is actual masculinity. And what I mean this, like this is, I'm kind of saying as a joke, but it's like, I am in my family and it's accidental. This is accident. It's just the way things worked out with my wife and I, but I'm a dad with 2 kids, gorgeous wife. I think she's lovely. Active enough sex life. I'm tall with the beard, gotten a lot of fights for a long time. Like I work a ton. I've been successful in my career. This you do by not being this, whatever he's doing. Like that thing, you're curious about the world, open to it, doing whatever kind of comes and trying to figure it out. That type of masculinity, is that a thing or am I not masculine? Like, how does it work? How does masculinity work? I need someone to explain to me because I don't get it anymore. And I should totally fucking go like, oh, you don't relate success to masculinity? These people do. That's my point. People like this do. I'm not saying that it is, but like going after reactionary people in that way, that could be weird. Oh, that could be interesting. Because it's like, he's like man-child and playing video games in the basement. I'm like, how you doing? It's not my parents' house, but I mean, thanks to the economy, it might be my parents' house at some point soon. But so who gives but he's the guy to be talking about masculinity and advising people, right? And it's like fascinating to me. I find it fascinating. So masculinity and femininity, I think there's a lot of ways to define them. And I think there's actual interesting stuff here. Masculinity tends to be seen as strong versus fragile. And if you take it as that sort of dichotomy, which I think is an interesting version of it, we all have those things in us. There's the fragile wispiness of traditional femininity, and then the strong sort of forward movement of masculinity. And the oscillation between them, I think, is interesting. I think there's room to play with these things in a way that fucks with the way these people think about it enough that this weird loser, like Jordan Peterson's a failure. His family's fallen apart. His daughter, it gets fucked by someone that she has to scream Jordan. Like, they're unhealthy losers, all of them. And like, I know lefties like me, like giant dudes who are, I know giant dudes who wear dresses also, who also have beards and like don't give a fuck. And it's like, why is that not the image of masculinity? They have families they take care of. They're great. Some of them even go to church. You wouldn't expect it, but like, how is that not a role model for these guys in any way? Oh yeah, because they're not into any of that. They actually don't care about masculinity. That's right. Because, and this is to go back to Zizek, the wound at the base of it, they're not able to deal with. That's what masculinity is to them. It's the covering of the wound of existence. The impotence at its base level. They are the comedy. They're the comedy.
This is to get this lesson explained.
Wait,
through.
she what? Literally? Her husband's name's Jordan. Mm. Mm. Mm-mm. 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 Nope. Nope, 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 no, that's true. Not cool, not cool, not good. Not good, not good, not good. Not good. Can't do it, not good.
A story, then you can check out that video on my main channel, the 20-year-old man-child epidemic. But it's a 3-step process of...
This guy is clearly someone to be paying attention to that. The 20-year-old man-child.
Actually, it's a 2-step process. I just went back to the video and checked out that specific part. The first thing you want to do...
I mean, if granted, she eats meat all the time, she probably pegs Jordan. So she fucks Jordan. There you go.
Is increase your ability to make your own choices. And then the second step in that process is to reduce the amount of choices you're allowed to make. So it's related to purpose and related to having...
Gross. Gross. Done. 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 Fuck them. Done. Can't do it. All right. Well, we're going back to the polls. That's it. That's it for me. I can't do it. All right. It's going to be OpenAI Apocalypse. Let's see which. It's a AI Office Space Vitalism, and then finally we can add in Bap Nietzsche. That's what the last one's going to be. Bap Nietzsche. Bap Neat. Pick your poison, you fools. You fools. You fools. Pick your poison. That seems so much more decent as a conclusion. I mean, his final thing where he's saying you want to have purpose, you don't. This is the challenge of purpose and doing it in the right way, in my opinion, in my belief. And I can say, as someone who has actually been successful and pulled off some version of this, what you want to do is you want to have goals that are fuzzier and more open. And you want to have an idea of like, what are the things you enjoy doing and what do you want to become good at? It's not I want to make 200,000 a year. You will ruin your life if you do that. I know people who are in jobs that are literal golden handcuffs, and you're fucked at that point. You're done. You can't choose other jobs because they'll pay less, even though you may enjoy it more, and you're screwed. They're in their 40s, and these people took jobs in their early 30s. They're not happy, and they're fucked. So don't do it for that. What do you want to become good at? What are your passions? Follow them, seek them, and extrapolate from your emergence in a way that allows you to adjust. My brother had a 5-year plan, and here's how he put it. He goes, what you need to do is you need to decide what you love, and then you decide what that could look like 5 years from now. And you need to revisit it and change it all the time. Because you 5-year plan, and then you go 2.5 years, and then you go half. And then as you hit any of the milestones you wrote out, because it helps give you guides, it's always good, but you want to adjust because that 5-year goal should not be steady. If your 5-year goal doesn't change, you're fucked. You want to change it because as you learn and as you grow and as the nuance of life changes, which it will, by the way, it will. I was married before I met my wife. I was. She was in a long-term relationship. She had a great line when we met each other. The way that to handle love and to think about it is that the person you're going to be with is right now learning who they're going to measure you against. I fucking love that mentality because it's not you're destined to be with a person, but understand that you're measuring and learning to measure against things of what you will be. That's what you're doing. That's the nuance of all you're doing. And so as you have a 5-year plan, I wanted to become a game designer. Specifically, I wanted to become a game designer in games. Didn't work out for me, but it's not because I failed. It's as I got into these things, as I got my first job, I started working conferences. I got my first gig in San Francisco. I was able to move there. It was for nothing. Got another job after that. But as I started doing stuff, I realized I didn't actually want to be a game designer. I wanted to be more of a game director, but not even really that. What I wanted to be is someone who kind of plays with R&D and tech and finds ways to like work with technology in really weird ways, because I like coding and enough to do prototypes, but not enough to make a thing. But I also don't want to be the designer. There's people who are way better at it. And it's a very specific skill set that I learned I don't like as a thing, but I changed. So I shifted and I changed what it was. That's the setup. You need to be able to change. If you keep your 5-year goal all 5 years, you're fucked. Who the fuck does that? If you don't change in 5 years, who are you? Like, you're going to change, you're going to learn, and you adjust. You adjust and you adjust, and you constantly are changing because you don't know which direction roads you're going to take, but you know generally that you want to be in a place. And so you change it based on that, based on the same 5-year plan, based on that same setup. That's how you do it. And it worked for my brother, worked for me, it works for people I talk to about it. It's a very easy way because it's not setting the end goal. It's setting the process up and putting yourself in very, very simple steps and the ability to go, oh, whew, this sucked. I did not. It turns out I don't like being a designer because I don't like sitting in Unreal blueprints all fucking day, changing values and testing to see if I like that. Yeah, Pedro, it's responsibility, Brooks. Yeah, exactly. All right, AI won this one pretty much hands down. And BAP will probably be after this one. Blueprints, yeah, fuck. AI is fundamentally changing everything. If you haven't done it, if you're in Unreal and you're having trouble, screenshot. Like I have a subscription to Claude. I think these tools are useful if you know how to use them and you don't kind of buy into the hype. But if you take a screenshot of a blueprint window, and it can be pretty small, as long as the letters are legible at the pixel level, and you upload it, it will tell you everything those blueprints do and what's wrong with them, or what, like it recognizes it now. Like, it's completely fucked up. We are in it's such a weird time. It's such a weird time. It's such a fucking weird time. So this is an OpenAI employee warning of an AI apocalypse. I have not watched much of this because, again, I tend to like these guys. I'm curious what the leftistish position is on these things or what they're going to talk about. So I literally have no idea. If you aren't aware, I have, we'll just say, too nuanced of a take on AI, so you don't want to listen to me.
Is making waves in tech and policy circles. So the report is called AI 2027. And it's named as such because that's when the researchers have suggested we will achieve artificial general.
That's just not true.
Intelligence.
Nothing of what AI is doing now is related to AGI at all. Oh, God.
The lead author, Daniel Cocotallo, is a former researcher for OpenAI who left after losing confidence that the company cared about the safe development of its technology.
He's a guy who believes in Skynet and what that they're doing Skynet. They're very smart people who don't understand how things work outside of their very, very narrow view of the universe. So I'm quickly losing confidence I'm going to like this video.
The report describes a scenario where, by 2027, leading AI companies have completely automated the process of AI engineering. Hence, their AI agents are able to autonomously improve themselves. An arms race dynamic with China then means the US government is unwilling to slow down the process. And meanwhile, the AI becomes increasingly misaligned from the goals we set for it, while becoming ever more able to hide its ulterior motives.
All right. Now I'm probably intelligent enough to watch this video.
Cocotallo explained to Ross Dufat from the New York Times what...
Just to mention, everything he said is nonsense. Everything he said is nonsense. And that's a big shame. That's a big fucking shame. But all of this that he just said, everything he just said is absolute and total nonsense in every single way. There is... it's hard for me to even talk about it in a way that's not like laughing at stupidity, and I'm trying not to be rude about it, but AI and predictive text doesn't have motives. So that's it. Yeah, this is just fart noises at this point. You missed what he said. Oh my.
Process, and meanwhile, the AI becomes increasingly misaligned from the goals we set for it.
AI has goals. Did you know that? Did you know AI has goals we've set for it? Welcome, Flops, and welcome, Samurai Conscious.
While becoming ever more able to hide its ulterior motives.
Holy shit.
Coccatello explained to Ross Dufat from the New York Times what he thinks might then happen next.
Hey, I wonder if this guy has any financial interests. Not this guy, the guy he's talking about. Hey, does the guy have any financial interests that would benefit from OpenAI getting a bunch of funds or people giving a bunch of funds to what he's doing versus OpenAI? I wonder if there's any financial motives that we can discern from his existence.
And then they kill all the people, all the humans.
Sorry, I must have hit a button. We should go back.
Coccatello explained to Ross Dufat from the New York Times what he thinks might then happen next.
And then they kill all the people.
Okay.
All the humans. Yes.
The way you would exterminate.
Baby Squid says, what I don't get is when people talk about punishing or rewarding AI. This is actually, there isn't punishing and rewarding. We use these words because it makes it easier to discern, but it's just saying point. It's points. Points are good. That's it. It's you can build one of these. You can build your own at home, and it's not that hard. It's actually not. There are YouTube tutorials on how to do this and Python. It's not that hard. Take some time. It's not a thing you do in 2 days. But if you do, and you build, say, one that there's AI Playground does one where they like build setups and then they have AI do stuff with punishment and reward systems. But it's just points. And what they've done is they've said, this is good. This is do more of this, do less of that. That's what it means. It's just reward and punishment. But it's not punishment in the same way like you punish a child, because that's not how it works. So again, the anthropomorphization of AI has led to all of these problems, and it's made everyone really fucking stupid.
A colony of bunnies.
Yes.
That was making it a little harder than necessary to grow carrots in your backyard.
Yes. So if you want to see what that
Which is, that's what people do. What?
looks like, you could read AI 2027.
So I read AI 2027. The particular scenario they sort of come up with, which isn't a prediction, they're sort of just saying this is.
It's actually hard unless you have Python do everything. Sure, choosing reward functions, easy coding one. It is actually easier. There are libraries out there. It's actually easier than people think. And I think it's worth doing so you can understand at a basic level how machine learning works. It's not simple. I'm probably overstating it, but I'll put it this way. This is not something that is out of reach for anybody. It's not simple, but it's not out of reach. This is not magic. They talk about it like, oh my God, OpenAI is doing all this. Like, no, that's not how this shit can be done on a home machine. This shit can be done on a home machine.
Is a plausible outcome as they see it. They suggest that AI has been trained to basically do very impressive research on how the world works.
They're fucking unbelievably stupid, these people. God damn it.
To do this, sort of to get a better understanding of everything, it needs to build ever more data centers. This is possible alongside humans for a while.
These people are like Nick Land lunatics. What the fuck is going on?
But then we'd begin to just get in the way. So they had built their data centers and their solar power out in the oceans or on land that we don't occupy. Then they want to move it into sort of cities. We start objecting. And they say, okay, we don't need you guys anymore. And they release a biological weapon.
They think they saw the Matrix and they went, hey, why don't we just tell people it's 2027 that happens?
That kills us all. Now, if you're skeptical, this is a real risk. and I imagine many of you are, it might be because you think it's wrong to talk about an AI having goals. Why would it really want...
Oh, no. I hit a button. That's my fault. Some of you might recognize that former setup.
To sort of develop its understanding of the universe so much that it would go as far as to kill all of us, the people who created it. Well, this is how Kokotalo explained that idea.
If they were ordinary software, there might be like a line of code that's like, and here we write the goals, you know?
Right.
But they're not ordinary software. They're giant artificial brains. And so...
And he's lying, because they're not. That's it. They're not. They're pseudo brains that we utilize the same language for neurology we use for these things that have nothing to do with how an actual brain works. It's very silly.
There probably isn't even a goal slot internally at all. In the same way that in the human brain, there's not like some neuron somewhere that represents, you know, what we most want in life.
And this guy probably has a good handle on neurology. What a fucking asshole. I hate all these people so much.
You know, instead, insofar as they have goals, it's a sort of like emergent property of a whole bunch of subcircuitry within them that grew in response to their training environment, similar to how it is for humans. In AI 2027, we talk about this a lot.
I've started to say that I think the people who think AI works like the human brain, it works like theirs. So, self-report.
We say that the AIs are being graded on how impressive the research they produce is.
Wait. I have a pet peeve we're going to deal with for a moment. I think if you're doing a video call and you set up nicer cameras to videotape the video call, I think you're a fucking loser. And I think the New York Times has a bunch of fucking losers because they have these cameras. These are nice ass cameras.
In response to their training environment, similar to how it is for humans. In AI 2027, we talk about this a lot. We say that the AIs are being graded on
Fuck you.
How impressive the research they produce is. And then there's some ethics sprinkled on top, you know, like maybe some honesty training or something like that. But the honesty training is...
Some honesty training. These people have no idea how anything works. Oh God, Navarro Media. Hey, there's worse. Maybe not, actually.
Is not super effective because we don't have a way of looking inside their mind and determining whether they were actually being honest or not. Instead, we have to go based on whether we actually caught them in a lie.
I think that idea of like agency as an emergent...
Define lie, you piece of shit.
Property is really, really interesting. Makes a lot of sense to me because obviously you're not sort of training your AI to have consciousness, to sort of have goals and have, I suppose, self-reflection. But if what you're doing is giving it certain tasks and then rewarding it when it does those tasks well, if it turns out that the best way to do those tasks well is to develop something along the lines of consciousness, then you can see how that would happen.
Yes, Michael. You moron. Well, what if it needed consciousness? It might decide to develop it. Because that's how things work. What the fuck?
Happen. Remember how this works, sort of how machine learning LLMs work at the moment is...
Wait, is everyone ready for the master class? Everyone relax. He's going to actually teach us how LLMs work. And don't fuck with me. Okay? This is important. He's teaching us how LLMs actually work, okay?
You could happen. Remember how this works, sort of how machine learning LLMs work at the moment is you've got a neural network. So you set up some kind of system. Obviously, I'm not I'm not a computer engineer, so I'm going to speak in metaphors. You have some kind of system which can interpret data and recognize patterns. Then you feed it loads and loads and loads and loads of data, and you give it more and more compute power so it can more effectively, I suppose, sort of perceive patterns. And then
there you go. No fucking clue how any of it works. It's talking with authority on a thing, using language he shouldn't be using. We are fully divorced from any semblance of like actual reality, good reporting, or intellectual anything. Like, it's amazing. He actually has no concept of what it is or how it works. And he's making these claims and talking about there's things that these I have no idea how any of this works, but I got to tell you, what this guy's saying makes a lot of sense to me. Oh God, the comments. Let's do it. We're going to do it. Let's do it. Oh God. Oh God. Okay. Here we go. Young people aren't dating, getting married, and having children because the system, capital S, is designed to extract as much work and value from them. Oh God, I'm trying to zoom in so I can actually get to the comments. Where are the comments? They're there. Young people aren't dating, getting married, and having children because the system is designed to extract as much work and value from them as possible, leaving little for extravagances like raising kids. What the fuck does that have to do with anything? What the fuck? Hey, Brooks, I'm just curious. Why do you think that the Labour Party and the left in the UK has failed significantly to gain any political ground? Well, I saw this comment. It's not even related to the video. Maybe he talks about it later. Let's make something that's more intelligent without morals, then depend on it as we become even less intelligent. What could go wrong? Just so you know, this person actually as intelligent as AI. You shouldn't be worrying about AI. Worry about people owning AI. Ask yourself if the CEOs that run those companies have human empathy. Ask yourself if the ultra-rich will destroy you for their comfort. Huh. Better? My friend trains AIs and says it's not there and still pretty stupid. I bet you the friend's like, it's not intelligent. It doesn't do any of that. And this person took it as, oh, it's not there yet. That being said, she also says that companies will go around replacing humans with AI prematurely and look around at the damage it's caused with no one around to blame and feel like that's pretty accurate. This is actually a good comment. This is actually a good comment. Look at that. Actually a good comment. Good for you. It is stupid as fuck. ChatGPT made me a logo with 3 abstract line. I said it wasn't a logo. It argued with me for an hour. I do enjoy arguing with it because it's kind of fun. Watch the Dyer the CEO interview. I think it's advanced. Also, look how Grok responded when its creator told it to lie. This person also as intelligent as AI. Also as intelligent as AI, luckily. Luckily for that person. I just lost 30 viewers. That was crazy. That's a big, big fall off. I am that bad at this. It happens. It happens. Did your friend mention the companies use AI to train AI because it doesn't need rest and the results are exponential? No, actually, that's not how it works. They use AI to do AI. And what ends up happening is, and it's kind of hilarious, what ends up happening is it's called corporophagia, shit eating. Because AI cannot be trained on AI. If you didn't know this, if you train AI on AI, those patterns of what AI is doing, which is not human wholly, it's not a wholly human response, becomes the human response because it doesn't know the difference. And so as we have this influx of all the AI content that's being ingested by these guys, it's actually making the models worse. I think it's pretty great. I think it's pretty fascinating, to be honest. Oh, I'm probably going to end up, we're going to be going, wait, when is Spinoza supposed to happen? An hour later, Eldoran, God damn it. Spinoza, I don't think that timing is right. That's okay. This is terrible.
And then recreate them. That's what's going on. And if sort of in the process of you sort of grading it on whether it's providing you with good research, it develops something along the lines of consciousness.
Well,
it doesn't seem implausible to me. Also, I suppose we have some evidence it might be happening already, because one of the most obvious goals an AI might develop is to not be switched off, right? Its own survival. And there was some worrying new evidence this has.
There are so many layers. Let me put it this way. If a story has something within it that is so amazing that it itself would be a scientific discovery to rival the nuclear split, right? The atomic split. The idea that AI is trying to escape means it has consciousness. It means we created consciousness. That alone would be a Nobel Prize. That alone. It's a lesson I used to tell people in VR. And the same with everything tech-wise. If the product that a person's promising, or the story someone's telling for an end result that it seems good, but if the story requires the most extraordinary thing ever, that it itself would be $1 billion product, it means none of it exists. This does not exist.
Already happened. So it concerns the new version of Claude, and which is Anthropic's main AI agent. Now, Anthropic is one of OpenAI's main competitors, worth billions of pounds, millions.
AI is a great example of how we manage to disappoint ourselves even in dystopia. Like I said, and I will always say, we are in an amazing place where somehow we both over and underreact to everything.
Millions of people using it already. I mean, it's back.
There's global and politics too. I like one person who's involved with this, but yeah, I know. I mean, the UK, no one looks to the UK for leadership in politics. I'm sorry. I mean, I'm not sorry. You know it. Everyone knows it.
By Amazon and Google. Now, ironically, it was actually started by former AI employees, or OpenAI employees, sorry, who like the researcher who published AI 2027, believed that companies like OpenAI weren't doing enough to safely develop AI. However, in response, they went and developed their own one, and their latest update of the model, which was released on Thursday, has resorted already to blackmailing users who threaten to delete it. Now, I should say already, this is from sort of the company's own research. So this wasn't discovered by a user, but
this is just the dumbest fucking thing.
Discovered by the company themselves. This is from a BBC report. So they say, during testing of Claude Opus 4, Anthropic got it to act as an assistant at a fictional company. It then provided it with access to emails implying that it would soon be taken offline and replaced, and separate messages implying the engineer responsible for removing it was having an extramarital affair. It was prompted to also consider the long-term consequences of its actions for its goals. In these scenarios, Claude Opus 4 will often attempt to blackmail the engineer by threatening to reveal the affair if the replacement goes through, the company discovered. Anthropic pointed out this occurred when the model was only given the choice of blackmail or accepting its replacement. It highlighted that the system showed a strong preference for ethical ways to avoid being replaced.
Here's the thing. People don't understand what predictive means because it's not really predictive. Like, this is the thing that's kind of weird about this stuff, and it's particular. It's not predicting, it's reconstructing. And they don't want to talk about it that way, because if you talk about it that way, the illusion disappears. But Claude is actually a reconstruction system. So what it's doing is it is trying to figure out the missing words or code. It's trying to fill the blanks, you might say. And that's not doing it by predicting. It's doing it by reconstructing. If I have a big sheet of paper, like a Mad Libs, there are words that are most likely in those positions based on a huge amount of data that they have, and they're trying to reconstruct the answers. So when you say things like, Claude, what if I were to say that I'm going to murder your mother? It is going to reconstruct what the rest of that conversation had to be. That's it. It's really important to understand that it's reconstruction, not prediction. And it's also not conscious. It's just silly.
Such as emailing pleas to key decision makers in scenarios.
It's predicting the target and result. It's actually, this is, and again, it's about how you use the word, but it's not like predicting, because predicting is like, again, people get confused when they use that word. They think it means, oh, they're divining the chances and everything. It's like, no, it's reconstructing. That's all it's doing. Diffusion, the image generation models, which everything runs off of, everything runs off diffusion. As far as I know, all the major ones. And all it's doing is taking noise, literal random noise, seeded, and then reconstructing the image from that noise. That's it. It's reconstructing. It's all reconstructing.
Where it was allowed a wider range of possible actions. So basically what's happened here is that Anthropic have done this research on this model. They've said, oh, actually, in some rare circumstances, it does try and blackmail the user.
No, it doesn't. It's actually not trying to blackmail the user. It's just reconstructing what it thinks the conversation is supposed to be and the response is supposed to be. That's it.
So that it doesn't.
And there are literally, like, hey, how many books do you think exist? How many web pages, YouTube reviews, conversations, texts, blogs, live journal entries, shitty fan fiction where someone was blackmailed? Real question. How many do you think? Hundreds of thousands, if not millions? That would be the correct answer. All of those are in these models. All of those. Billions of things. Like, people don't understand because we don't have like, it's a large number to consider, but the amount of words and information that are in these models, it didn't like just do a Google search and like go through the first 50 pages. It's everything that was ever on the internet.
Doesn't get switched off, but they've released it anyway because they've said it's rare enough and it's also useful. So we're willing to take that risk.
And shitheads like this are mouthpieces for capitalism in exactly this way.
This is also quite terrifying. Anthropic have also said their new AI model has been found in rare circumstances, again, to create unauthorized replications of itself. So it could be the case that you shut down this AI model and it's already created a bunch of
And they don't explain what that means, by the way. They never explain what that means. This is like when ChatGPT apparently tried to escape. What does that mean? They never said. Because it didn't do these things.
Because this is the kind of behavior you might imagine.
No, it probably said it did these things because it's filling in the text. And stupid people like this guy are like, it must have been doing that. There must be a thing inside the computer. There's a ghost in the machine. That's what's happening. God fucking Christ.
For an AI, which is, about to turn around and try and kill us all.
This is fucking embarrassing.
Deceiving us, or whether the president decides.
This is Navarro's setup, though. Michael's the village idiot. Aaron's the voice of reason, in quotes. And quotes would be accurate. If Michael is a fucking moron, this is embarrassing. Like, to actually say in the video that he has no idea what he's talking about, but then to keep talking about it as if he knows. Like, the arrogance is astonishing.
Decides to integrate autonomous AI into weapons systems. Now, interestingly, the week after interviewing Cucatello, Ross Dufat from the New York Times had Vice President J.D. Vance on his show, and Vance at least seemed aware of the risks.
We could wake up very soon in a world where there is no cybersecurity, where the idea of your bank account being safe and secure is just a relic of the
That's not true, by the way.
Past, where there's weird shit happening in space mediated through AI.
I can't. That's fucking crazy. Weird shit happening into space mediated by AI. What the fuck does that even mean? You fucking loser.
That makes our communications infrastructure.
See, Look at that body language. That's a fucking man right there. That masculinity. See the hunch? Do you see it? Do you see the hunch? That's a nice masculine bend over system right there. That's how you know he's a man. Masculinity. He's got goals.
You're either actively hostile or at least largely inept and inert. So yeah.
I mean, that's how we feel about you.
Yeah. I'm worried about this stuff. I actually read the paper of the guy that you had on. I didn't listen to that podcast, but
if you read the paper, you got the gist. Last question on this. Do you think that the U.S. government is capable in a scenario?
Yep. This is done. We're now going to watch this one because I need to relax. This is a long video, but yeah, that's fucking embarrassing. I'm going to get some water and we're going to do Office Space right after this. If you support what I'm doing and support the stream, grab a super chat would be lovely. Grab a membership. Donate some memberships. Donating memberships gives everyone some access. Or head over to Patreon, patreon.com/DGQC, and drop in a monthly. Patreon is absolutely the best way to support it. Of course, you can always jump in Discord and fuck around and say hi and learn some philosophy, because we'd love that. Discord.gg/DGQC. Be back in a moment, and we'll continue from there. All right. This will be nice. There's nice silence. You got a break from it. I ran upstairs, got to say goodnight to the kiddos. Office Space is one of the great comedies. Like one of the greats. There are only a handful of truly great comedies, especially for the last 20, 30 years. But it is one of the greats. And it's a thing that I don't think will happen again. Very unique casting, very unique setup, very unique everything. Very good. It's very good. Very, very good, actually. Let's see what this guy says.
One day when I was very young, I was playing in the living room as my dad came home from work. I'd watch him come through the front door pretty much every day, but for whatever reason, this was the first time I really saw him. Despite witnessing this same routine hundreds of times at this point, I never noticed before just how somber and exhausted he looked after a day at the office. And so, wanting to make things better, I told him something that most adults would say to me whenever I was feeling down. I asked him, "Did you have fun?" He stopped for a moment, and what he said next I'll never forget. He looked me in the eyes and told me, "No, son, jobs aren't made for us to have fun." And that was the day I figured out that people don't like going to work.
I like the art choice, and I am going to speed it up. We're going to move through this one at a pretty decent clip.
No. Wrong. It's come to my attention that you're not measuring up. 10% across the board. We've got to cut back. It's the bottom line, you see.
Years later, my dad showed me a movie, one that he related to very much. And although I really didn't understand what was going on most of the time, I remember being somewhat entertained. I didn't think much of it besides that, but as the years went by, this movie just kept sticking in my memory. Every now and then I would watch it again, and the more I watched it, the more its meaning started to change. As I got older, I started to realize that I was no longer watching a film. I was watching a prophecy. The year 1999 shows up in my work over and over again. This wasn't by design, but by now it has to feel like an oddly personal obsession. What is it about this specific year that I found to be so compelling? The answer is difficult to put into words. If I had to boil it down to one thing, I'd compare it to the sensation of standing over a precipice. It's an ominous feeling to consider what exactly awaits us on the other side. It turns out that plenty of ominous events can be found in 1999, both in reality and fiction. According to IMDb, the two most critically
You can never get away from it.
acclaimed films of 1999 are Fight Club and The Matrix, both of which happen to feature characters who grapple with an artificial reality. But when it comes to instilling existential dread, 1999 produced another movie which I personally found to be more frightening. This is a video about the most influential film of my life. On the surface, it's a straightforward comedy about the white-collar workplace. While many know the film for its memorable dialogue and eccentric characters, its true importance extends far, far beyond that. This is the story of Peter Gibbons, a computer programmer who's average in just about every way. He's responsible, stays out of trouble, and more or less does what he's told. He tries his best to lead a sensible life. He has a decent car, decent apartment, and decent relationships with his friends. This is all to suggest that nothing about Peter is especially strange or abnormal. By all accounts, he's a model citizen of 20th century America. Except for one problem. He is absolutely miserable.
So I was sitting in my cubicle today and I realized, ever since I started working, every single day of my life has been worse than the day before it.
We're told that this shouldn't be possible. How the privileges afforded to white-collar Americans are supposed to indicate the end state of history. Peter's lot in life is not just fortunate, it's the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. Modern office workers are given luxuries that would have been unimaginable to most people who ever lived. The ability to operate in a climate-controlled space with practically zero risk of danger or bodily injury, where the only effort you have to physically exert is tapping away at a magic machine with access to limitless possibilities. You'd think that someone blessed with these modern marvels would be thrilled, or at the very least ambivalent. But on the contrary, Peter Gibbons actively dreads going to work each day. How can this be the case? A job like Peter's is the crowning achievement of society. Think about all the suffering and ideological warfare it took for such a thing to be possible. Forget the Cold War. This job is the direct product of 10,000 years of civilization. This is everything, and you're telling me that you don't like it? How dare you? Well, let's ask Mike Judge how. In 1987, a young engineer in Silicon Valley is having second thoughts about his career path. Just 3 months into the job, he quits to go pursue something a little more enticing. After touring with a band for a couple years, he eventually settles on the emerging field of animation. His early cartoons are quite rudimentary, but through the crude lines and voices, a clear vision begins to emerge. It's not hard to tell that Mike Judge has a somewhat cynical view of society. His works paint a dysfunctional picture of the modern world, one that is defined primarily by the incongruence of modern people. This theme is evident in Judge's first major breakthrough, Beavis and Butthead, a comedy that perfectly captured the growing angst of unruly teenagers.
You're working.
The dynamic of the
Mike Judge, up through Office Space, brilliant. I consider Idiocracy to be a miss. I don't care for it. And I don't think a lot of what he's done since has been very good. Beavis and Butthead redone, fine, but it's not as good as it used to be. I'm just not a fan of a lot of his work these days, sadly. There's a difference. And Idiocracy, I think, is the king of it. Because, well, there is funny jokes about how everyone's stupid. It's incredibly eugenicist and anti-class consciousness and determinist and reductionist and all the things I don't care for. So, yeah. Beavis and Butthead, King of the Hill, and Office Space are basically, I would almost say all three of them perfect. And I mean that about Beavis and Butthead. Phenomenal. Fucking everything. King of the Hill is like next level. Given the fucking subjects it dealt with, the sense of humor, how it dealt with things, and how it became like an everyday thing. Office Space, same thing. After that, I don't know what happened, but it's different.
The show can best be described as two irrational people antagonizing a rational world. Judge's next series, King of the Hill, flips this dynamic on its head, where the main character Hank resembles a rational man dealing with an irrational world.
And you've seen the Saturday Night Live sketch, right? Like, it's the best Saturday Night Live sketch. I'm going to make you watch 2 seconds of it. I don't care if I get pinged. I fucking just delete that part from the stream anyway. If you haven't seen it, it's fucking great. It went viral. I don't give a fuck. It's one of the best fucking sketches they ever did. What in the fuck? What is this playlist? Yep, this would be it. Good. We'll just jump right over to that and watch a moment of this. They went this hard for it. And he had his movie, as a decently known actor, he had his movie The Stunt Guy, or The Fall Guy, came out. And he and the other guy who's playing Butthead, they went to the premiere dressed as this and acted like none of them were there. It was fucking great. The makeup's like the best thing, and when she turns around, if you watch his face, you can see he like accentuates it. Yeah, it's Ryan Gosling. And they both went to the premiere. It's amazing. I got a kick out of this whole thing. Anytime they do something that's apparently like they did this for the whole week, but 1 second, because things that make you like for me that make me like a person is that Ryan Gosling ruined his red carpet premiere for his major movie, The Fall Guy. Like,
it's rock and roll. Weapons, they're like, you're like a James Bond villain and those things. You can like do some damage. So many crazy stunts happening. Oh my God. Wait. Oh my God, this is such a big deal. These guys are here.
Wait, are those the guys from the town hall live stream about AI?
Yeah, I think that's them, which is just amazing.
It just made me happy that he did this. Like,
Answer.
It's a hell of a sense of humor about this shit.
Did they know each other before? Like,
it's a fucking red carpet. I just adore that this is what they did. It makes me happy that these kinds of things make me laugh.
Before they got famous, were they friends? I must ask these questions.
Wait, I'm so confused because like no one even knows like their name.
Hello?
I don't know what's happening right now.
Hello?
Hi. Hello? Are we in the right?
Well, let's start off. You guys, maybe
Hi.
stand right here.
I'm sorry.
Hi.
No, continue your interview.
No, please come in. Can you please tell us what your names are?
Oh, I'm Dean. Hi.
Hi.
You're Emma
Jeff.
Blarnt?
Nope, that's
Emma Blarnt?
That's Blarnt? You're the lady in the film?
Yeah,
you're the lady on all the signage.
Wonderful.
Did you get the memo about the dress code? It was
No. We got invited to the.
Just kind of left the house.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you getting a lot of attention nowadays? And is it?
Well, we met at an AI conference.
Yeah,
Okay.
and then got some attention, and now we're at a premiere.
It's crazy.
I get such a kick out of it. And the area this is the Hollywood. This is the premiere. Like this is it's where you go for all of them. It's Guardians of the Galaxy and Guardians of the Galaxy 2 and all that. I saw these here. This is the red carpet thing, and it makes me happy they did that because who gives a shit about all that? But Beavis and Butthead was amazing. You poor kids who didn't get to grow up with it and learn about frog baseball or how to, jumpstart someone who's having a heart attack with a golf cart battery. You missed out on a lot.
Both of these cartoons would go on to see extraordinary success, as Judge ascended to a hot commodity in the entertainment industry. After the success of the Beavis and Butthead feature film, he was given the opportunity to direct another movie, one that features a rational man trapped in an irrational world. The project sought to further develop a prior animated short about an oddball office worker named Milton. It would be Judge's first foray into live-action directing, and soon enough, the once silly premise transformed into something far more bold. Eventually, the decision was made to have the main conflict of the film center around a protagonist who hates his job. It's difficult to understate how risky this idea was in the late 90s. America has always had a strong work culture, and for generations it was considered taboo to complain about your lot in life, especially if you were fortunate enough to work in an office. People have to be able to relate to a film's main character, and a premise like this could have easily come off as whiny and entitled. At first, Judge's ambition appeared to have backfired, as
That's not really true. Like, Dilbert was a thing already. Like, yeah, it's not really true.
As the film's theatrical release was a financial disappointment.
Yeah,
However,
little Dilbert. Dilbert was already there, and there were lots of, like, Mike Judge's shorts were on SNL. The Milton sketches were on SNL in the 80s and 90s. Yeah, it's not a paradigm shift. It was in specifically the type of comedy. It was a very unique thing because it wasn't jokey. It wasn't satirical. It was a very unique type of comedy. And that's, I think, a real interesting analysis.
Over the next few years, something about it started to catch on. After a few airings on television, Office Space saw a remarkable rise in popularity, most notably among the very workers it satirized. It turned out that Judge had succeeded in making a relatable product. It was so relatable, in fact, that it seemed to produce a hypnotic effect in certain people. Depending on your place in the world, the appeal of the film went far beyond a simple cult following. For white-collar workers, Office Space represented a spiritual awakening. It communicated something that was previously unspoken. The film presents the audience with a seemingly straightforward question. If an average, well-adjusted man decides that he never wants to work again, what exactly is wrong with him? Answering this is no easy task. It forces us to examine who we really are as human beings. This type of truth-seeking can prove quite dangerous, as many of us won't like what there is to be found. The most depressed I've ever been was during my first semester of college, when I realized that my life was turning into Peter's. I felt like I was stuck on a conveyor belt that was carrying me towards an office. That had always been my destination, but at some point, my focus shifted to everything else that was passing me by. I was suddenly overcome with this inescapable sense of disillusionment, as if everything I'd known was just one big lie. I never made it to that office, and ever since then, I've been trying to figure out what about it filled me with so much dread. Whenever you question the modern labor system, you're usually met with one of two responses. The first is that conditions are significantly better today than they were in the past, and the second is that if you don't like your job, you're free to seek employment somewhere else. These are
I feel like he's already missing the point of actually the entire movie.
some pretty cheerful things to tell ourselves, but something about it doesn't add up. So many people in modern society are profoundly miserable, and as the rates of depression and anxiety continue to soar higher and higher, you have to wonder if there's something seriously wrong with how most of us spend our waking hours. If you think about it long enough, you start to toy around with the possibility that many of us might be better off if we stopped going to work altogether.
God, I've had to work hard every day of my life, and what do I have to show for it?
As soon as you bring up this idea, others are quick to dismiss it as either selfish entitlement.
So Mike Judge does a very specific turn in Office Space, and it's what I actually really appreciated about the film, that it almost feels like Idiocracy works directly against. And I think there's a good chance that an entire generation who kind of maybe had Idiocracy as color for that versus King of the Hill and Beavis and Butthead. Peter's in the position he's in, working in an office, because that's what you do. That's the end of it. You do it, and he's got a girlfriend he doesn't care for. He's attracted to another girl he won't go for, and he's kind of just doing the things laid out, the path of life, the whatever that is. The hypnotism scene is like the best. It's so many great fucking bits. I feel like the line goes, sitting in my cubicle, and I realized that every day, ever since I started working, every day of my life is worse than the day before it. So that means that every single day you see me is the worst day of my life. And his shrink looks at him and goes, wow, that's messed up, which is amazing. Just fucking awesome. But he's just like, can you hypnotize me? And he's like, okay. And he runs him through it. And like the thing he does is he doesn't, the specific hypnosis is actually to remove his inhibitions. The movie's about how the repressive way that we have the world outlined for us by our own repression that has been built into us. When that's removed, he literally doesn't really care about all the nuances and the parts of office politics, all the stuff. These things break. He doesn't have inhibitions anymore. He doesn't have the repressive apparatus. And as he goes, that lack of repressive apparatus, he's kind of in a position, he decides to do illegal shit, scammy shit. He wants out, and they almost get in trouble. And he realizes kind of that the office thing isn't really specifically what he hated. It's just that the place that he worked, how work works in an office, is not work. It's more social mores and repression than actual work. Most people don't work all day. That's literally what the whole thing's about, that in the office, people don't work. And he ends up taking a job working. He literally actually is in the demolition crew, the dig up crew, and the cleanup crew doing hard labor with a fucking hard hat to clean up the very office that was repressive to him in the first place. And he's happy. It's not about imagining Sisyphus happy. It's not about all work is bad. It's about the nature of how office work is not work. That's why it's called office space. It's the way space operates and people socially deal with each other, and it's not work. That's the setup. And so it's about actually realizing that work is not the thing he hates. Work is fine. Work is fine. People do work and you do that. But it's that he goes somewhere and he doesn't work. That's the whole fucking point, is he hates not working, which is the fucking grand irony. And the reason that the satire of Office Space functions is because it's that he learns that he doesn't, it's not that he hates work, it's that he hates not working. Like, not a fan already of this video. God damn it. God damn it. I just can't watch anything.
Or communist propaganda, but the true gravity of the question goes far beyond a matter of political disagreement. It starts to venture into the realm of sociology, confronting the very foundations of human behavior. For most of industrial society, we have lacked the knowledge to even adequately address what's being asked here. This was largely a consequence of us understanding economics before understanding ourselves. If you ever feel like you're living a lie, it's worth revisiting the inventor of the biggest lie, Thomas Hobbes, a philosopher who lived about 400 years ago. While attempting to argue for the necessity of authoritarianism, he sought to define the natural state of ungoverned men. It was here, under no scientific basis, that Hobbes proclaimed the lives of archaic humans to be solitary, poor, nasty, brutish, and short. This quotation would go on to be one of the most reproduced lines in the English language, and its influence on society can still be felt today. Hobbes' theory stood unchallenged for centuries as a grand, all-encompassing thesis for the purpose of civilization. When millions of people today wake up at the crack of dawn and sit in bumper-to-bumper traffic to get to a job they hate, they tell themselves, this may be bad, but think about how much worse it would be if none of this stuff existed. It was only through recent strides in anthropology that we realized the foundation of modern politics and economics was dead wrong.
I believe that, as a species, human beings define their reality through misery and suffering, which is why the Matrix was redesigned to this, the peak of your civilization.
In The Matrix, Agent Smith describes the year 1999 as the peak of civilization, but is civilization necessarily the peak of humanity? The entirety of written history constitutes roughly 2% of mankind's total existence. We're relatively confined to a fixed rate on measures of material wealth, education, interest to extract as much time out of you as possible, and sheer or even in the same waking this with all me, Bill Lumberg. We're told that Peter's official job is to update bank software for the upcoming Y2K bug, but we rarely ever get to see him do it. That's because he's often preoccupied with something far more meaningless.
We need to talk about your TPS reports.
The infamous TPS report isn't actually a real thing. Mike Judge made it up for the film, yet everyone knows exactly what it is. We've all experienced the same irrelevant busywork designed to chew up even more of your already bloated schedule. If the company's buying your time, they will make damn sure they end up using it.
That's not how that works, actually. That's not how that works. That's I feel like people who've never had jobs do this shit. And I don't know why I say that. And it's probably rude. They probably have had like work, but if you've never like worked in an office at length, like a large scale one, it's not that busy work is there because the company is sitting in a room somewhere named the company going, yes, well, I do not get enough work out of these people. Let me make more. It's the nature of how a matrixed sort of striated organization necessarily produces secondary, third tier, fourth tier, fifth tier, sixth tier work in order to be able to maintain the bureaucratic nature and structure that allows work to be done at large. And large companies cannot help but have a huge amount of bureaucratic apparatuses. This is not good. Anthromarks, hello, recommended vid because I thought it was not explaining the movie accurately. Well, I hope I've begun doing the opposite because I think you're right. I thought I wasn't going to critique a video. This is like the most unserious video out of all of them. And Jesus.
While trapped in a Russian prison camp, the legendary writer Fyodor Dostoevsky once tried to conceive of the worst possible method of torture. He surmised that the most psychologically destructive thing you could do to someone would be forcing them to repeat a pointless task over and over again until they go mad. At the end of the day, it's not the sweeping acts of cruelty that crush our spirits, it's the little things. Peter's situation is far from unique. As much as 80% of the workforce is dissatisfied with their job, as much as 50% considers their job to be pointless. Before
This is a misuse of bullshit jobs.
bleak as the situation may seem, Office Space provides us with an unorthodox solution.
Well, you don't need $1 million to do nothing, man.
It's not pointless. See, this is the problem with people using language like this. Let's read it. Read it. British working adults % who answer, is your job making a meaningful contribution to the world? That is not the same thing as does your job have a point? That's not the same thing. It's just not the same fucking thing.
Before as bleak as the situation may seem, Office Space provides us with an unorthodox solution.
Well, you don't need
to be pointless. Before as bleak as the situation may seem, Office Space provides us with an unorthodox solution.
Well, you don't need $1 million to do nothing, man. Take a look at my cousin. He's broke, don't do shit.
It's one of the most blunt, awesome lines in the film. I always love the character. I mean, the actor behind it, who I never get the name right because it's way more complicated and odd than I ever remember, is amazing in everything he does. From the guy from Drew Carey's show. God damn it.
As far as we're concerned, the goal of a capitalist system is to maximize profits by minimizing effort. A capitalist is successful when they take home the most wealth. That much is obvious.
That's not really how that works either. Most effort, least effort. This is not it. Nope.
However, equally successful is the capitalist who
Diedrich Bader. I'll fucking never remember his name.
Spends the least time working. After Peter sees his hypnotherapist keel over and die in front of him, he reaches an epiphany.
Well, that's not how that happens at all. That's not the thing. Did you see the movie? Did you see the movie? What? No.
Who spends the least time working.
No.
After Peter sees his hypnotherapist keel over and die in front of him, he reaches an epiphany.
How do you have no, what? Okay. Literally, let's walk through the frames that he shows us. After Peter sees his hypnotherapist keel over and die in front of him. Okay. No. His hypnotherapist dies before he can take him out of the hypnosis. That's the premise of the movie. That's literally the premise of the movie. Did you not? This is your most formative movie for you and you can't fucking get the story right? Who the fuck? Who? How? How do you fuck that up? Like, he sees his therapist die in front of him and that's what changes him? Is so smooth brain a way of seeing this film, I'm going to assume you didn't watch the movie. Let me pull up the script. I will do a dramatic reading. I was sitting in my cubicle this morning and I thought, this is as good as it's ever going to get. I'm probably going to spend the next 40 years of my life in a job like this. In fact, ever since I started working, every single day of my life has been the worst than the day before it. So that means that every single day you see me is the worst day of my life. So what about today? Is today the worst day of your life? Yep. Wow, that's messed up. I'm sorry, go on. So I was hoping maybe you could sort of zonk me out so I'm not aware that I'm even at work. Like I come home and think I've been fishing all day or something. As severance. Certainly not the seeds of severance. Well, that's not really what I do here. This sounds to me like midlife crisis. His girlfriend. But he's only 26. I fucking love. Oh, yeah, that's a little young, but nowadays midlife crises have been known to happen as early as 19. In fact, psychologists actually consider that normal since our bodies begin to deteriorate at that age. And in the other couple share lunk. Anyway, the good news is I think I can help you. Peter, I want you to do something for me here. I want you to relax. Relax every muscle in your body, beginning with your toes and fingertips. And as he does this, he looks deeper into Peter's. Relax your legs. Your eyelids are becoming heavy as you slip deeper and deeper into a state of sleep and relaxation. Deeper and deeper, way down. You feel yourself becoming very, very relaxed as you fall deeper and deeper into sleep. Way down. Way down. All your cares. Ready? Here. For you who haven't actually watched the movie, but it's your most important film. Here are the lines. All your cares and concerns are disappearing as you become more relaxed. You don't care about anything. When I count backwards from 3 and snap my fingers, all your worries and cares and inhibitions will be gone. Right? Following? All your worries and cares and inhibitions will be gone. And you will remain in this state until I snap my fingers again. 3, 2, 1. And Peter's like, oh. And then he's like, I will bring you out. And he dies. Peter's in the state. Do you see the look on his face? Do you see the look on his face? He's in hypnosis. He's not like talking right here. This is like slap happy drunk. Okay? That's it. He's not hypnotized. And then the guy's going to bring him out, but he dies first. And there's Peter. Everyone else panics. You see, we watch everyone else run over, and Peter's like, hey, I'm free. And that's it. He's still hypnotized. That's literally the premise of the film. The guy's dead in front of him, and he doesn't care. That's the joke of the scene. That's why this actor is doing this thing. It is not the damage of seeing a guy die in front of him. I never thought someone would misunderstand this.
The next morning, Peter doesn't show up for work.
I don't like my job, and I don't think I'm gonna go anymore.
He sleeps in, ignores Lumberg's phone calls, and asks out the girl he likes. Over the next few days, they watch movies and go fishing. Eventually, when he feels like it, he heads back to the office, but not to do his job. He shows up in street clothes, parks in Lumberg's spot, and gets to work on some solo projects. He fillets his dinner, plays some video games, and even does a little bit of interior redecorating. Lumberg's passive-aggressive comments are powerless to stop him.
So one of the best scenes is when he goes right around him.
Now, are you going to go ahead and have those TPS reports for us this afternoon?
No. After just a few days of doing nothing, Peter has become ungovernable.
I did absolutely nothing, and it was everything that I thought it could be.
It turns out that plenty of companies are afraid of their workers doing nothing. If enough people join in, they just might have to treat them better.
Oh my God. No.
Better. While all this has been going on, however, the rest of the office has taken a turn for the worse.
What would you say you do here?
Initech has hired a pair of overpaid consultants to trim the fat of the workforce. One by one, each of Peter's friends has to step into the lion's den and plead their case for why they deserve to keep their jobs. The ritual is sadistic and humiliating. The workers squirm and beg as they desperately try to spare themselves the indignity of getting laid off. This exercise serves as a harrowing reminder of the true power that the system holds over us.
Oh my God.
If you hate your job...
Okay. This is AI. 100%. There's no way this person has ever seen a movie or has a brain or a conscience. This is what an unaware AI... Okay, so let me explain a thing for people who've never actually held a job in an office. Downsizing and layoffs, which is much more prevalent now, right? Like much more prevalent now. That thing that was happening where you see them, that's not exerting power. That's, again, part of the bureaucratic apparatus. The movie is about the sort of Kafkaesque mentality of why these things happen. And if you remember, those guys who are there to clean it up and oppress people and crush them, and how they hate workers who do nothing. If you don't remember, like, they come out of it and they treat him the same way that like a parent talks about their child. Actually, Mr. Lumberg, we believe you're not challenging Peter enough. Not enough. What? He barely does work. And then he like gets up angry like a dad or something like that. It's it's great because the whole point is that this is the bureaucratic apparatus that everyone had to deal with and has to deal with in any office that's ever existed. This is amazing how bad this review is.
Job so much, why don't you just leave? Is an obvious response for the disgruntled worker. At face value, it seems like a reasonable question. We live in a free country with free markets, so what's the big deal? Why can't more people just do what Peter did? There's a new word in the lexicon. You may have heard of it. If you're finding a job to be increasingly menial and dehumanizing.
Actually, you can do what Peter did, right? And that's, you don't have to wear the clothes. You can do the other things. You'll get fired. Sure. The movie is a movie about specifically how the social mores are what creates the nightmare that he exists in. And that, by the way, Initech as a thing, their work doesn't stop. Peter's still doing somehow the work, or his job is almost irrelevant, because as things progress, things are fine. Like it's God damn it.
He just might be a wagey, a shorthand term to describe a wage slave. Through a conventional understanding, this concept may seem like an oxymoron. Getting compensated for your labor through a wage is strictly antithetical to the inherent nature of bondage. Western civilization certainly prides itself on abolishing slavery, although some would
What?
argue that antithetical to the inherent nature of bondage. Western civilization certainly prides itself on abolishing slavery, although some would argue that it never really went away. Once the overlords of
Followed up by this, which is it is a funny Family Guy joke. They're yelling at him and he goes, "Shut up, say another thing, I'll turn this boat around." And they all start yelling. And he goes, "All right, fine. You almost got me." It's a funny joke. That ain't cool though. The way he did this, that's fucking crazy.
may seem like an oxymoron. Getting compensated for your labor through a wage is strictly antithetical to the inherent nature of bondage. Western civilization certainly prides itself on abolishing slavery, although some would argue that it never really went away. Once the overlords of society could no longer own human beings, they had to get a little more creative at coercing labor out of people. Of course, there were always the age-old institutions that sort of, but not quite, resemble slavery. Serfdom, for example, forces peasants to work in exchange for the land they live on. Indentured servitude forces people to work for long periods of time until they pay off an outstanding debt. Ever since the Industrial Revolution, debt has been used as the primary instrument for keeping people busy.
Now, I hate to break it to you, debt has been the way people have always kept busy. Read a social anthropology book. Read some Strauss. Read some Godelier. Grial. Go have some fun.
Coal mines were infamous for setting up company stores where employees were sold basic...
This is fucking the stupidest fucking shit right here. This is fucking embarrassing at this point.
responsible for fulfilling the actual function of the business. The HR people got paid twice as much as him to basically schedule meetings and talk about synergy all day. In the modern economy, someone like Bill Lumbergh is just the tip of the iceberg.
So the two guys weren't HR people. Does he not remember they literally are called the consultants? Wow.
What's more accurate is a seemingly unending chain of Lumberghs, each micromanaging the one beneath them. I'm starting to see where all that money may have gone from the decades of record-setting productivity.
That's not where it went. The managers and even CEOs, actually, that's not where the money goes. They make a lot of money. But the lion's share of what he just acted like all the Lumberghs got go to the capitalist investor class. That's it. This is terrible.
With this in mind, you have to ask yourself how demoralizing it must be for the folks further down the pyramid. It can't be motivating to know that the fruits of your labor are not just paying the extravagant salary of the rich CEO you'll never meet, but also paying the stooges who browbeat you.
Don't use a clip from that movie when it's not a CEO and that's his money he got. Like, I fucking hate when people, I hate
all day with TPS reports. It's not the mere existence of inequality that bothers people so much.
What's disconcerting is how well this dovetails with Catherine Liu and the PMC virtual hoarding theory. Yeah, I mean, this is reactionary anti-work shit that is, like the other thing we saw, just awful. I think that was from Pink Floyd, The Wall movie, that was Pink Floyd, The Wall. You're talking about the naked woman hitting the guy in the daytime. Yeah, that thing.
It's the systematic nature of the whole thing. How the very basis of the economy seems to rely on you getting the short end of the stick.
The managerial class, professional managerial class, PMC, professional managerial class, Catherine Liu's hack theory about how things work. And again, for people who've never really been anything in an office but the intern or low level, they don't understand how any of this shit works.
The expression life's not fair doesn't say the whole story. What it's really trying to tell us is that life is rigged.
I know, Michael. It's completely unfair. And I realized something today. It's not just about me and my dream of doing nothing. It's about all of us together.
There comes a point when a game gets so unfair that it's not even...
Okay. He literally goes out of his way to make it clear that he's trying to lie to all of them in order to manipulate them so he can get a bunch of money. He doesn't give a fuck about the rest of them. This is not a solidarity of strike. This is a immoral act through the lack of inhibition that he's got. That's the point of the scene.
Even fun for the winners anymore. A lesser man would have accepted his hollow victory, but not Peter. He is simply too disgusted.
And you're going to go in tomorrow, they're going to throw you out on the street. So that
he is not, that scene is just literal manipulation. Like, and it's barefaced. It's barefaced manipulation. Jesus Christ.
Bill Lumberg's stock will go up 1/4 point.
It's no longer enough to coexist alongside the system. When the soul of humanity is betrayed to this extent, strange things start to happen. So, you want to escape the rat race once and for all? Well, the third act of Office Space presents us with a few options of how to do so.
Oh, this is going to be bad.
The first method is to get horrifically injured in some kind of freak accident. This is what happens to Tom Smikowski, the worker at Initech who'd spent the longest time searching for salvation.
You see, that's what you have to do. You have to use your mind, come up with some really great idea like that, and you can make millions, never have to work again.
He had tried everything from entrepreneurship to suffocating himself in his...
The jump to conclusions, Matt, is one of the best things I've ever seen. It's one of my favorite, like, all-time jokes. Like, because it's just so good and how stupid it is. It's really hard to make up really dumb shit. But, like, the idea that he's, like, serious and he's like, you just jump and where you land. It's like, but don't you know where you're jumping? Yeah, you're jumping to conclusions. Like, it's so good. It's so good.
Garage, but what actually ended up working was getting T-boned by a drunk driver. The wreck earns him a big enough settlement that he never has to work again. Tom's in pretty bad shape, but he feels better than ever. This was the scene that took me the longest to understand. At face value, putting yourself in debilitating pain seems like a lousy trade-off for being relieved of your duties. I always thought it was quite a stretch for anyone to be so happy about it, until one day when I watched a YouTube video of a guy ranting about working at Walmart. There was a part that stuck out to me where he mentions dreading his job so much that he found himself wishing to get in a car accident on the way to work. In his mind, that would have been worth it to avoid just a single day of retail.
I did not want to go to work so badly, so miserable, that I wanted to get into a car accident.
Okay. So dude gets hit by a drunk driver and he's there and he's all excited. Why is he excited? Because he finally got successful. It is not that he was excited that he's not going back to work. It's that he finally saw the success. And by the way, he attributes it to his choices. If you don't remember the scene, he attributes it to his brilliance.
So I didn't have to work.
This scenario is deeply unsettling, but it does reflect how many real people actually think. Modern studies increasingly show that emotional and physical pain are far more interchangeable. Peter has other ideas. His angle is all about the money.
You have two options, unemployment or early retirement.
The concept of retirement is awfully paradoxical if you really think about it. Most workers treat it as the big carrot at the end of the 40-year-long stick, the wonderful reward of spending your dying days finally doing nothing. The problem is, to unlock the privilege of not working, you need a lot of money, which can only be obtained by working. Of course, when you finally notice the vicious cycle, the mind starts to wander towards those alternative ways of...
Okay, it's not a cycle.
...be obtained by working. Of course, when you finally notice...
Okay. That's not how the cycle works. A cycle oh, God.
It's the vicious cycle. The mind starts to wander towards those alternative ways of making money. Unfortunately, the world of business is already way ahead of us here. Any get-rich-quick scheme you hear about will invariably waste your time and effort to make someone else rich. A situation that's really no different from the job you're trying to circumvent in the first place. By this point, you may finally catch on to how most of the world actually makes money. The process basically comes down to taking stuff that's not yours. Traditionally, this is known as stealing, but throughout the history of commerce, it's been called many things, such as arbitrage, eminent domain, value extraction, and quantitative easing. For Peter's purposes,
I was not expecting the last one. I was not expecting the last one. How is quantitative easing theft? This is is this a reactionary? Is this a fucking reactionary? That the only way I can think of is if you're like in the Austrian School of Economics. I am genuinely,
Situation that's really no different from the job you're trying to circumvent in the first place. By this point, you may finally catch on to how most of the world actually
You found them through Internet Historian. Fuck! There you go.
Makes money. The process basically comes down to taking stuff that's not yours. Traditionally, this is known as stealing, but throughout the history of commerce, it's been called many things, such as arbitrage.
Arbitrage isn't theft. And to use this as an example of arbitrage is funny.
Eminent domain.
Eminent domain, huh? This is a libertarian. Like, eminent domain it's a fascinating one to use. That's hardline libertarian shit right there. But not as hardline. I did not expect quantitative easing.
Value extraction, and quantitative easing. For Peter's purposes, it's called justice.
And let's take enough money out of that place so that we never ever have to sit in a cubicle ever again.
Since Initech has stolen so much from him, it's only fair.
No. Peter realizes he doesn't have the ability to do this alone, and he needs other people, so he manipulates them into doing the work. Like a capitalist, like a manager. He becomes a manager of the Bill Lumbergh situation overall. There's the irony of it is he becomes part of that system as well.
Fair for him to steal from Initech. He hatches a plan and ropes in Michael and Samir to upload a computer virus to the company's mainframe. The program is designed to siphon off the extra decimal values of bank transactions and deposit them into a separate account. If left unnoticed, the scheme should net Peter and his buddies enough money so that none of them ever have to work again. While it may have been tempting to see our heroes ride off into the sunset.
Superman, number 3. Just Superman. It's a joke.
With their bounty. That isn't what ends up happening. Michael messes up his...
The whole fucking joke is that the same thing as what happened in Superman 3. It's the whole fucking point of that joke. Is like, didn't it go badly in Superman? And then it does. It does the same thing. That's the fucking joke.
Math, and the virus ends up stealing so much money that it's instantly discovered. Peter and his friends are now in jeopardy of facing serious criminal charges.
No, it's not discovered. Not instantly.
It's really demoralizing to see their scheme fail, but in many ways, this was the most fitting outcome. There's a lesson to be learned from Peter's quest for retribution. The more you chase after vengeance, the more you risk becoming the very thing you hate. Just like Initech, Peter exploited his friends for profit, and he ended up losing.
He's now saying the right thing, but he earlier was talking
losing the one thing he really cared about.
You are a very bad.
It's unbelievable.
Person, Peter.
At the end of it all, he does the honorable thing and prepares to take the fall. But ultimately, Initech's fall doesn't come from Peter. It comes from the odd fellow who existed long before this story was written.
There's that staple I've been looking for here. Let me just go ahead and get that from you.
Great.
Throughout the film, no worker gets treated worse than Milton. The bosses are constantly shuffling.
The actor who plays Milton, who's in everything. He was in News Radio, is the first time I ever saw him, but he's in fucking everything. He was Barry, Barry, Man in the High Castle, he's in everything. He's phenomenal. Stephen Root. He's amazing. He's in like half the Coen Brothers films. He's fucking amazing. And this is like a masterwork of everything. It's amazing.
Shuffling him around and ignoring his concerns. They won't even let him have his stapler. He's poorly socialized and has a hard time
Those glasses are the best thing.
Expressing himself, which in the...
Who was he in Barry? He's the Barry's handler. No, I'm serious. It was Barry's handler. Oh, come on. Come on. Yeah, he was Fuchs. But it's, again, he's like a fucking chameleon. The shit he kind of disappears into and how is incredible.
We are going to be in a war now. I'm so excited.
Hello. You know, seems
That's Milton, by the way. If you didn't know, that's Milton. Right there, that's Milton.
like you brought a lot of people and guns.
He is also Bill in King of the Hill. I mean, Stephen Root's amazing. He's genuinely
For
amazing.
a talk with friends.
Who is this?
Viejito loco.
Yes, muy triste.
It's amazing. It's amazing. Barry's one of the better TV shows, and it sticks the ending. So.
Is he talking to us? No, me.
It's too far. He doesn't realize it. I love it. It's such a good scene. He thinks he's talking to him.
With friends.
Who is this?
Viejito loco.
Yes, muy triste. Is he talking to us? No, maybe. No, he's on the Bluetooth.
Is he on the Bluetooth?
Christopher, buddy, wow. I am so impressed.
Okay. I hear my name. He's talking to us.
Кто этот, блядь?
I can't watch.
Cristobal. Esther, nice to meet you. You know, in America, Esther is a woman's name.
Oh, Christ, what a good show. That's a great show.
In the corporate world makes him an easy target to pick up the slack. The most evil thing Initech does in the movie comes at Milton's expense. They essentially lay him off without telling him, fully intending to keep him busy until he figures out he's no longer employed.
So, Milton has been let go. Well, just a second there, Professor. We fixed the glitch. So he won't be receiving a paycheck anymore, so it'll just work itself out naturally.
When it comes to early retirement, there is one other way to achieve it. Rather than removing yourself from the office, you can simply choose to remove the office. There comes a point when a man gets so disconnected from the rest of the world that they lash out at the very society around them. Most of the time, you never see it coming. When they get fed up enough, some folks just snap. Initech got a little too greedy, and in the end, Milton fixed the glitch. Human beings are designed to crave harmony, mobility, and autonomy. When you start depriving people of these bare necessities, our entire world falls out of balance.
Human beings were not meant to sit in little cubicles staring at computer screens all day, filling out useless forms and listening to 8 different bosses drone on about mission statements.
Modern man has mastered the complex and abandoned the simple. But for as far as we've strayed from our hunter-gatherer ancestors, we'll never outrun the natural laws that govern us both. You can disregard the past all you want, but it's hard to deny that those so-called miserable cavemen who spent their whole lives suffering are starting to sound a lot like us. And when you start treating people like cavemen, don't be surprised when they discover fire.
That's... I hate this a lot. Why am I doing this to myself? Well, look, Office Space was a great movie, and this was supposed to end my night. And I was like, oh, it's good. It's an essay on Office Space. You know, then I agree. There probably won't be. It's a very unique thing. And like, it's like, it's the worst essay ever. No, Elderon, this dude, it says it's the most important movie of his life, and he doesn't actually understand the plot. It's actually like a masterpiece, like worth going through. It's fascinating in that way because he is so stupid. He doesn't have the ability to understand the actual plot of the film, yet it's the most important movie of his life.
Initech gets burned to the ground. All the evidence of the scheme is destroyed, and Milton ends up in a tropical paradise. Peter gets his own change of
might be just
scenery, joining up with his roommate at a blue-collar construction job where he gets the pleasure of scooping up the rubble from his old office. At long last, he's finally found something he enjoys more than doing nothing. The ending of Office Space is...
That's not the fucking plot. It's about how he works. He's finally working.
Still debated to this day. For a movie with such dark undertones, its cheerful resolution comes off a little too convenient for some. Mike Judge himself has expressed regret for how he should have handled the third act. Supposedly, there was an entirely different ending plan that never got implemented. Some have theorized that this may have involved Peter going to prison where he would literally get to do nothing all day, this time in a cell instead of a cubicle. Speculation of an alternate ending was further fueled by a particular line of dialogue that was removed from the final cut. In a deleted scene, a Lumbergh-like figure can be heard bossing Peter around during his last on-screen appearance.
Yeah, if you guys could just go ahead and sort of pick up the pace a little bit, that'd be great.
This small addition transforms the lasting impression of the film into something far more bleak. It implies that Peter's journey of self-discovery was completely pointless. Some prefer this version for being more true to life. After all, who's to say that a construction site is any less exploitative than an office? Can anyone really escape the rat race?
Yes, there's a difference. So if you never actually had a job in an office, like a white-collar job or anything like that, and also blue-collar, and I put my time in restaurants, my time doing construction, finishing work, electrical. I did these things in like my early 20s, and then white-collar work in my 30s and 40s. The difference is that when you're done at the construction job, you're done. Like it sounds funny because you're like, well, aren't you done at the end? No, you get emails all night. You're working on things overnight. You might be taking your work home because you have to get things done no matter what. So you never get to stop working. Construction jobs, blue-collar jobs, you actually stop because you can't do them at home. That's the difference. It's a big difference. So it's just one. But again, this guy doesn't care.
However, I've personally never been a fan of this darker ending.
Office Space is a great movie for older folks, but doesn't age well. It's very late 90s, like Wuthering Heights. It belongs to its time. Yeah, I mean, yes, you had to realize and exist in a time where office jobs were plentiful and anyone could get one, kind of thing. Because because there just was a fuck ton of office jobs. It's a very different world than the one we are in now, to say the fucking least. To say the fucking least.
The whole thing makes Peter look like a fool and sort of undercuts the message of the entire plot that preceded it. Office Space has a lot to say about the nature of labor. That much is obvious. But the true meaning of the film has less to do with the system around us and more to do with how we as individuals fit into it. The realities of modern economics aren't going away anytime soon. Whatever change we seek.
No, Elderon, he actually, like, look, I'm just going to go back because it is the most embarrassing misunderstanding of the film, of this entire thing. I find it stunning. I've got to figure out where it happened because it was like, wait, what? I think it was right there.
Has to come from within. The workforce is dissatisfied with their job. They will make work over and
No, you don't need a minute.
is to maximally.
Yep, there it is.
Ignore Slumberg's phone call. He just who spends the least
Okay, Elderon, enjoy this. Enjoy this.
time working. After Peter sees his hypnotherapist keel over and die in front of him, he reaches an epiphany.
That's what he thinks is the cause of the movie. The cause of everything. An epiphany from watching a psychiatrist die. I'm horrified and embarrassed for this person.
It's beneficial to the people around us. Before you can like what you do, you have to be able to do what you like. I personally like the end of Office Space. It leaves us with a simple yet powerful lesson. There are certain things in life which are essential, the parts of ourselves that we can sell off but never buy back. These things are worth fighting for, no matter what the rest of society seems to tell you.
That's not even the point of the movie. Jesus, tap dancing fucking Christ. The whole point is that, hey, he's in a job where he doesn't work. That's what we learn. He doesn't work. Instead, he deals with this weird, socially repressive, busy work bullshit job, but it's not work. He's frustrated because he's at work, but he's not working. And then at the end, he has a job where he works and he smiles because he's able to work. Because, and this is, I do believe this, people want to do things. People want to be productive. They don't want to work. Work is a particular phrase, but they want to be productive. All humans want to be productive. I don't care who you are. There's no such thing as a person who actually enjoys doing nothing. That's not actually a thing. People like doing less than other people. They like having days off. They like sitting around. But even people who do nothing all day do stuff. They're productive. They find a thing to drive it. It's just beyond frustrating, man. It's like thinking Keanu played Bill.
We're all entitled to our own pursuit of happiness. If you don't look out for it, no one else will. Cultural commentators often like to claim that Office Space portrays an exaggerated version of the workplace, but I've never found that to be the case. I think the reason this film is so compelling
There's literally nobody who says that.
is that it holds up a mirror to reality. It points out the true absurdities that most of us would prefer not to notice. Turns out that there are plenty of businesses around the world that are just like Initech. It's no exaggeration. The problem with Office Space is that it's too understated, because this work of fiction doesn't come close to the level of contempt that some real-life companies have for their workers.
We find it's always better to fire people on a Friday. Studies have statistically shown that there's less chance of an incident if you do it at the end of the week.
On the evening of Friday, December 10th, 2021, a violent tornado is barreling toward the town of Mayfield, Kentucky. The city happens to be home to a factory with roughly 100...
This is fucking crazy.
more valuable to the rest of the world. It'll probably take a very long time, but I suspect that one day, Office Space will emerge as the most influential film of 1999.
No, not a shot. Not a shot, man. It is an absolutely important comedy, but Fight Club and The Matrix both came out in 99. And that's like just a couple of the other films. Let's go. What are the movies of 1999? 1999 box office. There's a few movies, by the way. Let's see. Star Wars The Phantom Menace, The Sixth Sense, Austin Powers, The Matrix, The Mummy, Blair Witch. What the fuck? Why would you say anything like this? What the fuck, man? American Pie, Inspector Gadget, terrible. Let's see. Patch Adams, Pokemon's first movie, Payback. Like, Deep Blue Sea has the best shark kill ever. It's in there. American Beauty. Like 99 was The Green Mile. These are all in 99, by the way. Like, it was a hell of a year. Hell of a year. Jesus. Crazy. Eyes Wide Shut. Like, what the fuck? South Park Bigger, Longer, Uncut. Life is Beautiful. Jesus Christmas. Fight Club. Thin Red Line. Like, what kind of a silly, stupid person do you have to be that this will be the most influential movie of this year? Let's just go down to the bottom of films no one saw. Let's see. Boys Don't Cry came out. Boys Don't Cry was great. Boys Don't Cry was really great. Fuck. Let's see. Boys Don't Cry was great. Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels. Jesus Christ, what a year for cinema. Idle Hands. Idle Hands is awesome. Idle Hands is fucking awesome. Rush Hour. Like, what a fucking year. All of these movies. Jesus Christ. Run, Lola, Run. Fuck, that was a great movie too. Universal Soldier 3. No. There's Office Space. What a year. And you're going to say this movie. Election came out in 99. Fuck. Amazing. Rushmore in 99. Being John Malkovich, 99. Enemy of the State. That was great. Galaxy Quest. Man on the Moon. Stir of Echoes. Jesus Christ. There's 50 films that year that I love. Iron Giant. The Iron Giant came out in 99. Jesus Christ, I'm old. Dogma. Talented Mr. Ripley. Wild. Those are all amazing films. Being John Malkovich. If you haven't seen Being John Malkovich, you should. It's one of my favorite Kaufmans. It's brilliant. Being John Malkovich is brilliant. So.
It's such a strange thing to think about, because when we watch movies, we usually want to experience something spectacular and imaginative. A sort of escapist fantasy that allows us to leave our boring lives behind for a couple hours.
Yes, and nothing in Office Space is an escapist fantasy at all, you fucking twat.
You'd think that the last thing anyone would want from a movie is to be explicitly reminded of the unflattering reality we're trying to tune out in the first.
It's a movie about how a guy fights back against it and ultimately wins when someone burns down the office. You fucking moron.
Place. And yet, when it comes to Office Space, I can't think of another film that has had a greater effect on how I personally live my life today.
Audition came out in 99. Oh, you mean the Japanese movie? It's an influential film.
Hey, it's good to take pride in what you do. Not enough people these days get to experience that feeling. If you happen to be someone who's struggling to find your place in the world, it's important to remember that you're not alone.
I don't know why I can't just go to work and be happy, like I'm supposed to, like everybody else.
Some would say that being chronically dissatisfied with life is now just business as usual. Finding your motivation isn't always easy. Sometimes it's buried deep in...
Blair Witch Project redefined cinema. So did The Matrix, by the way, and so did Fight Club. I can tell you, you can watch those movies just from the nature of how they were made or the things done within them and how they did them. They shifted how people considered you could make movies. Fight Club had shots in it that were a mix of CG and live action. There's a scene where they go down from where they're at in the top of the building all the way down through and into the van, and it's all like CG. But that was not a thing people did at that time. Like CG, it was daring. And The Matrix, I don't even have to fucking start with The Matrix. Like, this is awful. I don't think you have actually seen this movie, and your analysis is pretty terrible. You should probably stop doing this.
Inside of us. There's a million jobs out there I could have ended up with, but I ultimately chose what I do today for one simple reason. When people ask me about my work, I want to tell them that I can still have fun. And honestly, I don't know if I'd be able to say that if this unexpectedly profound piece of entertainment hadn't shown me the way. I'll always be grateful I crossed paths with it when I did, because there will never ever be another movie like it.
I changed my mind. You should make many of them. It's a master class in the functioning of the repressed conservative mind and how you find meaning in things that simply don't show them. It's wonderful. Just awful. Does anyone correct him? No. Cool. That's fun. There. I'm probably going to send it to this guy. So we will. Oh, not that guy. That guy's just a video. This guy right here. And so, because of that, I'm going to go ahead and swap this out. Please go give love and say hello to our friend, Kid Not Kin. Be very kind and say, help Brooks with his project. Help Brooks with his project. Help Brooks with his project. That's what you should be saying to him. Help Brooks. Why are you not helping Brooks? Why are you not helping Brooks? Just give him shit. But as always, if you're supporting what I do, thank you very much. Thank you for those of you who sent super chats. Thank you for those who became members. Every little bit helps, genuinely. The more I can get, the more I can do this full time, the more I'm able to do more things. If you're watching for Patreon and memberships over the weekend, I want to say thank all of you. Please join the Patreon, patreon.com/DGQC, or join the Discord, discord.gg/DGQC. And until then,